Good morning from San Francisco. Show number 754 for Monday morning, the 16th of September. Rick Bannerow, good morning to you. And it's a glorious day in Connecticut. Stingrays up and Adam early up in Seattle. He's sleepless perhaps in Seattle. Can't wait for this racing to get going. Rhode Island Rover, rise and shine and do or die. That's a good point. Michael Frank, praying for a miracle. Well, I can say that it is, some of you will know, it is very, very light. It was 1 gusting 2 a few minutes ago at the top of the Arts Hotel. Those of you who know Barcelona and that beautiful hotel. Rick Hayes is in Chicago where it's 7 a.m. Tiberius CX in Hull, Massachusetts. Hello, Tiberius. Nice to have you on and nice to have everybody else on. Let's see if we've got some ESPN Plus coming up. And why don't we start this morning with Gordon Smith in Denmark while I'm working on ESPN Plus. Gordon, what are you expecting today?
The weather gods are favorable. I was very taken by Ineos and AM. Do you know they're the 2 boats who broke the mold in this competition? And I'm just looking forward to it. I love seeing teams that take a different tack, dare I say. And, and some days it pays off handsomely and some it doesn't. But let's wait and see what the weather gives us.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Let's carry on here with the slides for a second and talk about what Graham Sweeney, I don't see Graham on yet, but Graham Sweeney, our regular Zoomer up in Scotland, calls the Whack-A-Mole Cup because of the heads popping up and down. I think a big theme of this will be, again, the recumbent cyclors on American Magic. Bravo Zulu to them and all the cyclors. I mean, what a terrible job on a yacht race, on a boat in a yacht race. But before we get to all that, Bravo Zulu to the winners of the Maxi Worlds, Leopard 3, Joost Schoof, and his team being awarded the Rolex and more there at Yacht Club Costa Smeralda. I believe that was Saturday, was the prize giving, but we'll probably have the IMA Secretary General on with us at some point today, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, coming to us. Probably he's back home in London, I'm not sure, but also Bravo Zulu to the winner of the Classic Division here at the Rolex Big Boat Series. It was a foggy, breezy, chilly, damp day yesterday here in San Francisco, and that is the classic schooner Mayan, owned by our immediate past Commodore of the St. Francis Yacht Club. And one of our Fozy is here, who's often on here. You hear me talking about him, and that is Lance Burke, a.k.a. Fog Machine. Bravo Zulu to them. Alistair Murray is saying hi to the Zoomers and to all the Fozy. Theo Smith saying hi. Richard Lawton, Yarvahe from a sunny New Forest. Tier de Jong is down in SoCal. Julia's up and Adam upstairs in the Commodore suite. And J. Frederick Bland in Texas asking, will the fat lady sing? Well, as you all know, Alistair Murray is wishing Tommy Slingsby, go Slingers. Yeah, this is the day we need some wins. Claire Harrington, the esteemed Vice Commodore, New York Yacht Club. Dorsey Beard is on, presumably in the Northeast in Rhode Island. I think that's where she's living. Dorsey was on my team back in the 87 Cup. Brent Bacon, John Van de Londegem. Hello, good morning, John and James Appel, Philip Laffin, Tom Pace, the Commodore of Pensacola Yacht Club. I think he's home now in Pensacola, having been up in Newport for the Resolute Cup. Ross Murray, hello, Ross. Well, lots of folks on here. Justin Rosenberg, one of our latest and greatest. We appreciate very much, Justin, your contribution to becoming a patron via Patreon. Chris Odorowski, Commodore Chris Odorowski in Barcelona. Let's go over now and see if we've got a cable signal here. Let's go to Ed Worley and get a little preview from Ed Worley down in SoCal. What are you thinking, Ed? Good morning to you.
Good morning, everybody. I think it's going to be a really good race. I think Tom and the guys in American Magic are going to come out swinging. I mean, the races were very close. I mean, the last leg was about as close as you can get. And I think they went back and rethought about what they got to do. And knowing these guys, they're going to come out. It's going to be a really good race.
Well,
and they're going to win.
We can hope so. We got John Lammerts Van Buren on. John, good morning to you. What are you thinking? Do we have John on? He's on mute. John, you're muted. Let's go to John Emmett. I see him signing on. Congratulations to John Emmett. John Emmett has just won the Laser Masters division in their UK. What was that? The UK Nationals, or just a qualifier, John Emmett, for your World Championship coming up. Good morning, John.
Good afternoon, morning, evening, wherever people are. I mean, actually, it's only the first of 6 events, but it's a senior event. So that's why you get all the British sailing team doing these competitions. But it was a very wet and windy day in Petheli. Well, both days were very wet and windy. And ironically, I didn't need to race yesterday because they only got one race in before school came. So I probably could have been home 7 hours earlier, but there we go. But here we are with the AC, and yeah, I think it'd be really nice to see American Magic take a race win, so it's not all over in 2 races, if that makes sense. I guess there's 5 match points.
Well, there indeed, and it, of course, has happened here in 2013 in San Francisco. So we're watching a preview of this first match between Ineos Britannia and the Swiss, between Alinghi Red Bull Racing. Skip Morehouse is in the house. Nina Morehouse Wilson. Must be a relation there. John Sangmeister, good morning to you down in Long Beach. Chris Fury in Melbourne, Australia. We got a worldly audience again today. Mark Wendelowski, Julie Aarons in Cleveland. John Mangino. 6 minutes, they're saying now to the start. 6:09. It's been very light talking to various people in Barcelona this morning. I wonder if Chris Otorowski can put a breeze in for us. He's there on his yacht in the harbor, or maybe out on the water racing today. I don't know which. And John Lammerts Van Buren, we got you unmuted. Maybe we can get a preview from you today in Holland. I won't try to pronounce your hometown there. Good morning, John, or good afternoon to you, sir. John Lammerts, you there? We don't have audio from John. He may have slipped away for a minute. Clayton Embley, greetings from the wheelhouse in presumably Kentucky. You can see there, not much breeze. And there's Arnaud Sarfagas. He is the A-helm. What's he saying?
Put the hammers down against the
That's
British.
Glennie Ashby talking, one of the commentators. 5 minutes. I doubt we're going to get a race off anytime soon because it was gusting a few minutes ago. I had a report from Richard Gladwell, who's down in Auckland watching, but he's, what time is it in Auckland? It's 8 minutes after midnight. He was saying it was gusting blowing 1 knot, gusting to 2 knots on top of that Arts Hotel. That beautiful, there's Ineos, seems that that's a real-time picture, live picture. Ineos up on the foils, or are they being towed? I don't see it. I don't see a tow line. There is Sir James Ratcliffe, out on the coach boat today for Ineos. Looks like he's in town. Looking forward to maybe their 5th and final win. Get my earbud adjusted here. Fritz Mueller, hello to you. He's in Geneva today. Normally in Miami, he's over in Geneva, Suiza. Chris Elliott is in North Carolina. Brent Bacon is telling us he's seeing 6 to 10 knots out there on the race course. Well, the forecast was not auspicious from the official forecast. They've rebooted the clock now. They're back up to 8 minutes 50. So again, Ian Murray, the race director, has that 5-minute rolling boxcar average, and if during any 5-minute period it drops below the 6.5 knot minimum, then they restart, and that clock goes back up to 9 minutes, 8.5 minutes. Yeah, both, as we know, both matches are on the, this is it, do or die today, because both matches are on 4 wins and 0 losses, 4 for the Brits and 0 here for Alinghi Red Bull Racing. and that's looking raceable at the moment, barely. And in the other semifinal, which we'll see one or two matches for today, the Americans are on right on the cliff here because their opponent, Luna Rossa Prada-Pirelli, the Italian team, are up 4-0 in that semi-final. Susie Helm is on. There's a new face and name. Susie, nice to see you on here. And we've got Lee on. Lee, let me see if I get your last name pronounced. Borthwick. Did I pronounce that right, Lee?
That's correct.
Lee, a stalwart at Pensacola Yacht Club. Good morning, sir, to you. What are you expecting today?
Well, we're just going to have to keep our fingers crossed and see if we can't score a couple of bullets. We really need to work on our approaches to our starts. I still can't quite understand the tactics of the start sometimes on the lee side constantly on the lee side of the line, the bottom end of the line, and
meaning the pin end.
Correct.
The pin end, what we would normally call the pin end. Of course, this starting line has pins or buoys at both ends. The robo marks, the mark set bots. 8:45, they just redone the clock again. So they are foiling, Lee, but it looks like they are under the 6.5 knot average, 5-minute average. Welcome to you, Lee. Pensacola Yacht Club, big fan of American Magic. They having trained down there the last couple winters. And I guess there's even a possibility. What did your city do, Lee? What did your city has done some sort of a sailing center deal for American Magic, big picture going long-term going forward? What's that all about?
Yeah, it's apparently we are going to be the winter camp, I guess, for American Magic, and I believe the state has given them funding approximately, I just want to throw this out, I think it's right, $10 million to the city. And they're in construction right now, I do believe, as far as getting their buildings up. They've been here for quite a while now, and the community really has just reached out and done everything they can to help these guys. We think they're wonderful. They're great ambassadors for Pensacola. It's a great place to sail.
Okay, Lee, thank you. I mean, let's have sound bites. So remind to all of our Zoomers, including you, Lee, you're new on here. If you want to jump in, don't jump in, please. I'll invite you in. That's our normal procedure for all the Zoomers. And Lee, thank you very much for joining. And also sound bites, kind of 30-second, 40-second sound bites is what we appreciate from the Zoomers because we like to keep everybody up to date on the racing. Gotcha. And bravo Zulu to everybody in the Panhandle in Pensacola. I love Pensacola Yacht Club, where you're a stalwart, along with Tom Pace, the Commodore, who I thought I saw Tom on as well this morning. Let's go see. We get John. Well, we still don't have video from John Lammerts Van Buren, and we'll get back to him. Who else is on here? We've heard from Gordon. We've heard from Ed. And John Emmett is taking a break. Susie Helm, you're sending us a picture, but not any video. Let us know if you want to jump on, Susie. 6 minutes 30 now. Again, this running clock, hoping we get that minimum 6.5 knot breeze. Not yet. I'm going to click off the video for a minute and go back to, there's a shot of... That's the umpire. Yeah, that's Richard Slater and his crew of umpires watching from there in the umpiring room and part of they're off on the side of the International Broadcast Center. Bravo Zulu again to Mayan, and that team winning the Rolex Big Boat Series. Thanks to all of you who are supporters of Sailing Illustrated, those of you who have joined as a patron, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. We are deeply appreciative. It helps keep us on the air with keeping our equipment here in Studio B intact, and we pay our streaming fees as well. Look at this shot. There's not as many people as we saw yesterday on a Sunday. 5 minutes now. We're progressing, it seems like, maybe toward a start. Hopefully, we can only hope. But let's look at one more slide here before we go back to Barcelona. We will do our regular show tomorrow, 1300. There is a question as to whether or not they will use tomorrow, which is a reserve day. We're in day 3 of the schedule, and if they don't get the requisite racing in today, if one of the teams has if the teams that are on set point, a game match point, I should say, don't get that final 5th win, or if they don't get any racing in today, we're not sure if they'll race tomorrow on the reserve day or skip through till Wednesday, which is what most people think is going to happen. They will skip tomorrow, give everybody the day off, and then start up again on Wednesday if necessary, in which case, of course, we will go live with a watch party at 0500 and then do our regular show again on Friday. And if they're still racing, we'll keep doing watch parties as long as there is racing. There they are, getting down to 4 minutes, it looks like, for this first match. It could be the final match in this semifinal between Ineos, who are on 4-0, over Alinghi Red Bull Racing, the Swiss team. And I think maybe we get a quick word from, back to the top of our list, Gordon Smith. Gordon, what are you thinking? Is this one and done now? Is this your British team in this light air? Are they going to win?
Well, of all the conditions that Ineos sail in, my perception was this is the one they're weakest in. So it'll be interesting to see. And yeah, I think this is the race where anything could happen.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Graham Sweeney. You've got your pillow handy, I hope, your Union Jack pillow. What are you thinking today?
Hi, Tom. Well, I just wish everyone goes out there and gives it their absolute best. I mean, this is the best racing we could ever see, isn't it?
Well,
if it's the right weather.
What do you think? 3 minutes, it looks like, to the start. It looks like we have the race minimal.
Just the answer we want.
I think we've got enough to race.
I wish they'd give us an overhead shot. We're approaching the entry period at 2 minutes. And the Brits coming in on starboard tack 10 seconds later from the starboard end. On the other end, there are the Swiss with 2 minutes 30 to go. They get to enter 10 seconds earlier than the Brits. They will be on port tack, the giveaway boat. What do you think, Ed Worley? Are these two teams going to stay on their foils, or is one of them going to fall off here in the pre-start?
I think one of them is going to fall off in a pre-start. I think Ineos just has so much momentum. They're going to sweep it.
They're going to sweep it regardless. Here we go. Excuse me. The Swiss are in. 2 minutes to go. The Brits will be coming in on starboard. The Swiss will get across on port tack, headed to the lower right corner of the starting box. And we're into it. Day 3 of the semifinals. It's a watch party. Sorry, you got to look at my profile again. We can go live to the coverage, but I don't want to get a copyright strike. We're watching on ESPN Plus here in the States. Not a princely sum. If you want to sign in, you're bringing your own video for $11 a month, $10.99 for ESPN Plus, a subscription to ESPN streaming service. Swiss there ahead until lured as they head to the right side. There's the warning track, I call it, before they get to the boundary. That's where they get a boundary penalty. Warning track from American baseball, where the outfielders, they start backing up against the wall. There's a port starboard almost. Ineos jibing around in front of them with 53 seconds to go. Ineos wanting to lead back. They're ahead until lured, may be able to squeeze the Swiss out, keep them above the starting line. Yeah, we liked your Teddy Roosevelt quote this morning, Ed Worley. Rick Banro did as well. Newport reporting in with John Keogh. And now the Brits are luffing up, heading up underneath the Swiss. Swiss are ducking down now. Will they try to get a hook on the Brits? Doubt it. I think the Brits will accelerate, stay ahead. Now they're starting to swing up. They're a little early, the Brits are. 4-3. Nicely done by the Brits. They've got the pin end. Lee Borthwick still wondering about that pin end, but they're forcing the Swiss to tack away. Do they stay foil-borne? Do they stay foil-borne?
Ooh. No. Yeah. How about that? We did.
Okay, mute yourselves when I haven't brought you into the show, please. All of you on the Zoom call. John Emmett, just back from winning the Masters division up there in one of your qualifying regattas. John, what are you thinking here at the start, where the Brits have an early, small lead?
I thought that the Brits dominated the start. Brits got themselves in a little bit of trouble, and it could have been a lot more trouble. I mean, I think the wind at the moment looks perfectly raceable, and I just think that Ineos is a better boat if he can be so black and white. So I don't expect to see anything particular in this race, but it's all good training. For me, the next one, it's hopefully that'll be squeaky bum time.
Lee, you got to mute yourself unless I bring you in, because you're talking to yourself there. And when you talk, I have the Zoom on speaker view so that I don't have to switch. Thank you. And there was a crossing ahead, the Brits. Comfortable lead, 70 meters or so, 3 boat lengths. Crossing ahead of the Swiss. A little problem there with the graphics on the TV. A lot of Zoomers on today, the most we've seen. There's Samsung SM. I'm not sure where Samsung SM is or who he is. But welcome to you, sir. Where are you and who are you?
It's Phil here.
Oh, it is Phil.
I was on the other day. I guess this is on my phone. I guess I don't have it documented right in the corner of the screen.
Phil Lindemann in Cleveland. Are you in the Cleveland area today, Phil?
Yeah, I'm up on top of the building I work in. Behind me is downtown Cleveland. I thought you might have a delay here, so I thought I'd go on and give you some brief views from up here on the roof.
Appreciate
That's
it.
Cleveland Stadium back there.
Appreciate it. Welcome to you in the morning where it's 8:20 in the morning. You must be at work. A big new sailing center, which the Cleveland Park District and others, local sponsors, are going to put together. Looks like a fabulous facility there. As the Brits are leading by 100 meters. Dylan Fletcher was just in that shot. So welcome to you, Phil Lindemann. And the rest of the Zoomers. Julia is up and at 'em upstairs in the Commodore's suite. What amount of weather helm do these boats have? It appears quite a bit. No, I don't think so, Chris. I think these boats are pretty lightly balanced, pretty well balanced with very little weather helm, because weather helm would slow them down. Question from Chris Higgins. And here come Ineos ready on the starboard tack, about to tack onto port. I still wish they'd give us an aerial shot as a PIP up here in the corner. Picture in picture, as the TV guys call it. Brits extending now up to 150 meters lead. Mark Holland said he just watched the youth press conference. What an outstanding group. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the youth, and especially looking forward to the women.
Not much wind on the water here at the moment at all.
As the Brits closing in on the first gate at the end of leg one. It's a 6-leg course again today. And the Brits, it's close. The Swiss have hung in there. The Brits rounding the upwind right end of the gate and headed down to along the left side of the track, presumably. Here's the Delta. It's only 17 seconds as they're headed down the downwind right, the upwind left. Jeff Moxham watching in Sydney at 22:15 Eastern Australian summertime. I'm going to bet I can't see the big fellow let them race. Well, they are racing, Jeff. So stay tuned. 22:25 in Sydney.
The windward gate, shortening the course to 1.15 nautical miles.
Okay, the race committee there with their communicator, 200-meter lead. Shortening it up. Okay, Jeff's staying up. That's good, Jeff. You got Aussies coming up in the next match anyway. Helming on both the American boat and the Italian boat. Co-helming at least. John Albert Collings, hello to you, sir. And the Youth America's Cup starts tomorrow, no day off. David Richard Moore saying good morning. He's enjoying the day from the crew of Bella Marie, watching offshore again in Rhode Island. Rhode Island Sound, maybe. I can't switch to YouTube, John Emmett, not easily. I would have to get my, and I have a VPN, I have to switch to, what's the difference, John, between, come on the Zoom, John, tell us what's the difference between Zoom and what we're seeing here on ESPN Plus. The other day, ESPN Plus was ahead. What are you seeing, John Emmett?
Yeah, actually, I think you probably are ahead, but I'm watching on YouTube and sort of following the comments and stuff there. And I just figured that 90% of the FOSI would be watching on YouTube. So it might make it a bit easier for people watching live and watching in replay. I remember there was that time when they started the racing on YouTube, so to speak, and ESPN was still playing highlights.
Yeah, I think that's not true. I think a lot of people are watching it here in the States, at least on ESPN Plus. Others are watching it on broadcast. Some are watching it on Facebook. So that it's just kind of a hit and miss around the world. I think you may be right that the majority, or a plurality at least, are watching it on YouTube. I think you well could be right. But what's the delta, John? Do you figure? Here we are going down this second leg.
There was a relatively close cross, which was something like 100, 150 meters, but now in US are just going to extend. And I think in any type of racing, you forget about the distances because that's speed relative. But if you get 10 boat lengths clear, then you can almost start to sail your own race. And Ineos is about that mark now. And that's the same if you're in a water pusher like an Ilka going at 4 knots, or you're in one of these boats going 34 or 44 knots. That 10 boat lengths just gives you enough of a cushion. And I think this is the last race in this stage for GBR. So maybe they'll try some things and to push the boundaries a little bit to find out where their limits are. But as I said, the next race will be really interesting. And I do very much hope American Magic will win.
Coach John Emmett, back home in Weymouth in the UK. Thank you for that. Ineos Britannia is the look on board. But John, again, when I was asking about Delta, how far ahead do you think we are on ESPN Plus versus YouTube? Any idea?
The issue I have is you've both got completely different screens. So when I'm looking at your screen, you've got a close-up of a boat. So it's not necessarily like for like, but I think it's probably 4 seconds.
Oh, okay.
I guess the way to tell would be the Delta.
Come on, John, 4 seconds is not a big deal. I mean, excuse me, you're a bright boy. And if you got 2 different screens, that's even better. You got another view. If YouTube is showing something different from ESPN Plus, maybe they're switching locally between the various scenes available at ESPN in store. They're in Connecticut, presumably.
You look like a tactical genius, Tom, if you call something just before it happens.
Well, maybe we could figure out how to show the stock market, a couple, 3 minutes ahead on one screen of what it really is. Okay, we're talking crazy talk here on a Monday. Monin in San Francisco. Thanks to lots of people for joining us. Apparently the Swiss got a penalty there somewhere along the line. What was the penalty? I guess they were OCS, so we had that penalty. Inside Great Lakes Sailing, Greg Normand is on. And a news flash from Andrew Pindar. He's saying, I'm landing Barcelona early Thursday afternoon and around town for a big block of time. Please DM me if you're around and have time for a coffee. Any of the foes you want to meet up with Andrew Pindar. one of our super fozy, who will be in town Thursday morning. Yeah, Rick Reynolds says that YouTube is behind ESPN by several seconds. I think I'll stick with what we think is the earliest rendering here of the racing. What's this? Delta was a minute 10. Wow, so that confirming again that at least in these conditions, in fact, probably, ooh, the Brits have fallen off the foils. They've fallen off the foils. Have the commentators picked up on that?
Sailing into pressure too, Shirley. The British sailing away from that new pressure coming down, so...
That's the pressure that Glenn Slingsby's talking about. The Brits have fallen off 10 knots. So, yeah, there was a prediction from Ed Worley about teams falling off the foils, but are we going to see a change in the lead here? As Alinghi, you've got attack in this marginal foiling condition. And will they fall off the foils as well? I mean, the question now, if they can get back up on the foils without a tow. Remember, both these boats we think were towed onto their foils pre-start. GPS now showing the Swiss with the lead. What a wonderful venue, eh? Yeah, boat race. Yeah, well, that's not the kind of boat race most of us were hoping for. I'm sure Sean Hogan, who is in hospital down there in Australia, having some infusions. We're all sending you our best wishes for a speedy uptick in your condition and recovery, Sean. You're a good mate of Alistair Murray's, we know, Mr. President. Pedro foiling sailor in Sydney. The Brits still off the foils as the delta increases now. The Swiss leading, having taken the lead, leading by 270 meters. What a fabulous sport. At least a representation of our sport, as the Brits now are almost back on their foils. They are. Are both foils down? Oh, they got their windward foil up. 25 knots, so they're foiling again. Meanwhile, the Swiss are in the lead, have taken the lead. 100 comments already. A lot of folks on here. Graham Sweeney, your boat's trailing. What do you think, Grambo?
Oh, what a race.
What a race.
What a venue.
John Emmett says anything can happen. It adds to the excitement. Do you agree with that, Graham?
Well, that's the obvious answer. But, yeah, I know. We really shouldn't be seeing this. We should be seeing some proper racing, eh?
Well, some people like this excitement. They like the change of the lead change. James Appel, for one, likes it because his 5-1 prediction just got better. He was predicting 5-1 for this series. Alan Long, tough break. Hello, Alan. Where in the world are you? Are you in Texas, Cleveland, New England? Jeff Moxham says this is the wrong class for the AC. Sorry. Claire Harrington making a bit of fun of me, saying, is this when we say bloody hell? Graham, I managed not to say bloody hell so far. But we
bloody hell.
You can say it. We had a Fozy flop there. As the Brits now trailing by north of a half a kilometer, 500 meters. The wind is, they're saying on the live wind thing down there, just a sec ago, they had the live wind up there saying 9 knots. So I don't know where that, obviously the course is very patchy. And the Brits sailed into a low pressure area, a light air patch over there in the upwind left after they rounded through the gate. Lingy didn't seem to have the same problem. If you believe Cap Gemini, there was a puff there. You can see it along the upwind left margin. Boundary, margin. 500 meters, still the delta. So who's guessing that the Swiss now? Gordon Smith, will the Swiss fall off their foils now? What do you think's next to come here, Gordon?
I'm not sure. I'm like John. It's a little bit like a game of chess on the water. They've really got to be hunting for the pressure. They've got to be thinking about the choices between boat speed and staying up, and VMG and staying on the foils. I think it's really interesting.
Well, the Brits are catching up. They're sailing a touch higher, it looks like. Okay, back on the close-up of the bow. Clay Embley, thank you for your kind comment. If not for this show and the Fozy and the Zoomers and so on, I would not even have looked at this AC on YouTube. John Emmett, why do you think the Brits have a much better VMG? Oh, splashdown. We have splashdown on the Brit boat. John Emmett, what happened?
At the point I made that comment, they were going higher and faster. That's why the 4 seconds is important.
Philip laughing and saying, we say Fozy flop, it's time to, at least those of us where it's morning, it's time to guzzle the coffee. John Emmett, what do you, the Brits are back up, sort of. Is that, that's a replay of that tack. They're on a reach down there as the Swiss go through the top gate. This delta is going to be huge. And if Ernesto Bertarelli is there on Vava, Vice Commodore Harrington said she saw Vava in the background. Vava 2 is the boat that belongs to Ernesto Bertarelli, the owner, leader, team principal for the Swiss. The delta still growing north of 30 seconds. It's going to be north of a minute. And the Swiss managed to jibe. I guess these close-up shots are interesting to see if teams, when they do a maneuver, as Sail GP calls it, whether they can stay foil-borne. The Swiss still going faster as the Brits look like they're back semi-foil-borne anyway. Passing in the night on opposite legs of the course. Love the difference in tacks and jibes. You mean in the boat handling, John?
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing. I mean, the close-up of a bow with a boat going in a straight line isn't of any interest at all. But I'm very interested to see the maneuvers. And I just think you need to give yourself more wiggle room in terms of having more speed going into the maneuver and a wider tacking angle. The downwind isn't as much as a problem just because the speeds are higher. But tacking, I don't think it's worth taking the chances. And we saw it the other day.
John, sound bites, please, because the Brits are off the foils. Sorry to interrupt. The Brits are off the foils. They were both on the same heading on opposite legs. Did you like that, John?
You get huge deltas when people are dropping in and out of the water. Huge deltas.
Yeah. North of a kilometer now. Fabulous venue. Great racing here. This is whack-a-mole racing, as Ed, John, a lot of you call it that now after Graham Sweeney penned that phrase, I think. Whack-a-mole racing. What are your team is off the foils, Grambo?
Oh, mate, what's going on?
And the flip, cat.
Yeah, well, 1,500 meters. They've shortened the course. We heard the race committee come on and say they've shortened the course. There is Arnaud Sarafagas. He's a happy boy. Starboard helm, the A helm on Alinghi Red Bull Racing. Boy, they're flying high today. They must like this light air. What are the jib sizes? Anybody gotten a look at the jib size? Ed Worley, have you gotten a look at the jib sizes on these boats comparatively?
No, I didn't have a chance to look at them, but it's pretty sad when the race is decided by who falls off the foils. I'm trying to like it, but it's hard. So
we're going to have a 2-kilometer gap here, Ed. I'm sure you'll think that's really good. There's a
Yeah,
jibe.
no.
Can Alinghi stay on the foils in this condition? Do they have a bigger jib up? I wish they'd give us, you know, what are the commentators saying?
The Swiss, and they're just going to touch down here. So both teams now off the foils.
Okay, that's
From up near where Ineos Britannia are. So
it's John Emmett is saying, well, it's a bit like wondering who is going to capsize when you're uprange when it's windy and dinghies. Yeah, but John, the good sailors don't capsize. You know that. GBR, the magic nautical mind behind. John Lambert's Van Buren. He's still showing. He's not showing on the. There's my Zoom screen showing all of the Zoomers on there. Gordon Smith. Both boats have splashed down. Gordon, what do you think of this racing?
I think it's fine. I know there's a bunch of people out there who have somewhat edited memories about yacht racing out of shore and hours bobbing around when there's no wind, but I think it's fine. I take the rough with the smooth, as they say. I think these boats are amazing. I think the racing's fantastic. Got no problem with the venue, and it's a challenge. It's a bet.
Okay. Well, it's the nice thing about the FOSI and the Zoomers. We've got people on both sides of the issue, all sides of the issue, up, down, underneath. And we've got both boats displacing. And you wonder why they don't call it off. Well, now the only thing that calls it off is a leg time limit. If the lead boat does not complete the next leg in the time required, and I don't know what that time is. Somebody on here will know. John Emmett thinks the time limit's getting close for this downwind leg, but I think the Swiss are going to make the time limit, aren't they? At least on this leg. Now it remains to be seen whether they make the time limit on the next upwind leg. Both in displacement mode. Yes, Alan Long. They're still showing 8 knots according to the race committee average. I guess they must be averaging the wind out across the track.
Battle alive with Ineos Britannia, so they will just coast around.
Thanks, Steve MacGyver. We appreciate that. Tell us what we're seeing on the screen.
Just under 8. Wow. How about this? The America's Cup continues to throw up something.
Yeah, throw up is right. The Swiss guy grew up in this stuff. They know a drifter know how to drift. John Lamberts is saying. Yeah, he grew up, Arnaud Sarafagas grew up on Lake Geneva. Oh, they've shortened the course. This is now the final leg. This uphill last leg. What is this? This is the 5th leg, right? The upwind leg. There's a bit of a spell. Yeah, the nice thing, that's a point. I hadn't thought of that. You heard Glennie Ashby saying the Aussie, superb Aussie sailor, the cyclers don't have to cycle in this condition. Oh, yeah, the America's Cup is throwing up some conditions here. And they're not going to make, what is the time limit? Do we know? The per leg time limit? They've got to get up to the top of, that is Alinghi, you have to get up to the top of this racetrack, the next gate, gate 5, in whatever the time limit, the per leg time limit, and they're not going to make it at this rate.
That would be cruel. That would be cruel for Alinghi Red Bull Racing.
Having missed
It'd
out.
be cruel for, 45 minutes? Is that the total race time limit, Richard Gladwell? 12 minutes for the first leg and 45 minutes for the entire race. Okay, thank you, Krasimir. Thank you, Krasimir Naumov, we like to call him the easternmost FOSI. He's in Bulgaria normally, and one of our westernmost, the Aussies and the Kiwis, but Richard Gladwell watching in Auckland where it's 45 minutes now after midnight, watching paint dry, Heidi Purcell says. Okay, so 45 minutes is the time limit. We are now, how far into this race? I didn't get the start time. Did anybody else get the precise time of day, start time? We went live 45 minutes ago now, precisely. but we didn't start this race until quite a bit after 5 a.m. our time, or 1400 in Barcelona. Andrew Pindar says, I think they'll finish before sundown, and one would hope. It is 14:45 now in Barcelona as the Brits get through the top gate. There's their nice camera work, guys. You get both boats, so that's both boats in the shot. Was that that was maybe another boat in the upcoming match. If you're just joining us, both boats are pushing water, as John Emmett likes to say. And we have a time limit of 45 minutes for the entire race. The start, Mark Holland, our statistician, comes through once again, telling us that the start time was 14:20. And if we add 45 minutes to that, as we're looking now not at the first leg time limit, but we're looking at the total race time limit, can Alinghi Red Bull Racing get to that top gate in the time remaining, which would be 5 minutes after the hour, the top of the hour. So we've got just, 20 minutes left. Is that right? Did I make that? It would be, the time limit would be 14:65, which would be 15:05 local. And that would be 19 minutes from now, if my public school math. Oh, gosh, darn. Break out the code 0. Yeah, Andrew Barkworth says 27 minutes so far, so that would be right. 18 minutes now to go, right? 5 minutes after the hour, wherever in the world you are. That means 5 minutes, I believe, after 1500 in Barcelona. It's coming up almost on 2:47 p.m. A little beyond that now in Barcelona. Spinnaker, anyone? John Emmett's asking. That's all history now. They're still saying a live wind of 8.2 knots. Give me a break. I think they're taking a wind average. Maybe they're taking the wind at the top, way up high at the top of the Arts Hotel. What do you think, Richard Gladwell, who's in the comments? Welcome to Long Island Sound in August. Larry Kennedy is a New Yorker. New Yorker! Lots of time for a cold beer and a sandwich. Well, those, thank goodness, the cyclers don't have to do much cycling. He keeps using the word throw up on Steve MacGyver does. This begs abandonment. Well, they don't want the regatta director playing God, Krasimir, so they've got these baked-in time limits. Baked-in time limits, 45 minutes for the entire race once they get through. So replay, of course. Once they get through the first leg time limit. Commodore Chris Odorowski saying this underscores the need to revert to conventional yachts.
We were straight back into a hole, going back into the middle of the course. And we couldn't tack back to the pressure on that left side because we'd have just been straight out boundary when we did get foiling. So sounds a frustrating one, but it's the way it goes. So I think the best hope now is we get breeze.
Yeah, they're hoping on the Brit boat, of course, that the Swiss team does not get to the top gate before 45-minute time limit. The 45-minute time limit expires. And we're coming up on about 15 minutes to that time limit. 15 and a half minutes here to that time limit.
They're probably going to get this one in the bag, and then we just got to prepare for the next one. That's for sure. Oh, well, as the saying goes.
Okay. You know, somebody said yesterday we should be starting a betting pool now that sports betting is legal in a lot of states here. I guess I'd have to get some kind of a license or get Bet MGM. Is that what the new one is called that we see in the NFL yesterday? We should be having a betting pool. Are the Alinghi Red Bull Racing going to make the time limit? Who says yes? Who says no? Swiss are only going 8 knots.
go again.
8.5 knots.
The British slowly building a little bit of pace. I mean, just to give you some reference.
Shirley Robertson saying the Brits are building some pace.
3 minutes 30. So if
Here are the Swiss. Finish line is way up here. Who says they'll make it? John Collins is optimistic. He's saying they'll make it. That is, the Swiss will make the time limit, which is down now to coming up on 14 minutes. Alan Long saying the Brits appear faster in displacement mode. $250 million on the line. This is what we get. Barcelona may be beautiful, but the weather's unacceptable. Mark Wharton Reed, who's back in Michigan. Gordon Smith, zero chance of abandoning this class of boat if ETNZ, LRPP, or Ineos win. Gordon Smith, let's go to you. Do you think that contract that supposedly is in place among some of the teams will hold? Gordon Smith, do you thinking that these boats will get used again next time, at least the third generation thereof?
Absolutely. You know, you can talk about contracts, about deed of gift. Deed of gift counts if you get into court, if there's a disagreement. If the teams agree and they fundamentally want to race more often and they want to get return out of their investment, then they'll go in this direction. I have no doubt.
Well, for sure. If in fact there's mutual consent, they can mutually consent to just about anything with respect to race conditions. They couldn't run it under the deed, for example, in vessels powered by something other than wind. They couldn't run it in motorboats and call it the America's Cup. But you're right, they can mutually consent to this class as they have done now. They can mutually consent to whatever courses, the number of races, the distances, and so on. But if they don't agree, then it's back to the deed of gift. So that's what we're up against here. What are we
I
up
agree with that. I'm completely agree with that perspective. You know, that aspect I think has been demonstrated. I think it's the case if all the teams agree or the deciding teams agree, then they will continue in this direction.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the deciding teams, of course, being the defender, whoever that may be, and the challenger of record, whoever that may be. Okay, let's get back to the yacht racing, which is so exciting here. The Swiss are going 1 point just above 2 knots here now. The Brits are going 6 knots. They're in displacement mode. And the Brits, having gone through that gate, are catching up. They're both on the final leg. The race committee have shortened it to this upwind leg, and the Brits may cross ahead now. They're on starboard tack. Brits are going, as Shirley Robertson keeps repeating excitedly on the commentary, they're displacing at, John Emmett said, they're faster than the Swiss, at least at the moment. There's a nice camera shot, but the Brits look like they're going to cross ahead and regain the lead.
Mother Nature is having a major say in this fifth battle between Ineos Britannia and Lingy Red Bull Racing. Quite simply,
starboard tack Britannia.
Red Bull Racing.
Rick Banner says it looks more like a flounder dance than a yacht race.
To survive.
I think the time limit's going to run out, gang.
Behind their only chance.
Are they halfway up this leg?
The Swiss.
Yeah, and the time of day is 5:53 here, so in Barcelona, lower left clock, coming up on 16 minutes now to the time limit, if we did our sums correctly. No, the Brits are not a leg behind. The Brits are on the upwind leg as well, aren't they? Aren't they both on the upwind leg?
Get themselves in the Louis Vuitton Cup final. Even if it means they have a no result here and they have to go again.
No, the Brits are not on leg 4. They're going upwind. They went through the bottom gate. Where's our statistician when we need him?
Something going on here. Yeah.
The Brits are a leg behind. They're both upwind. Brits crossing in front.
So I thought the British team there would have potentially lined up the Swiss and basically just kept forcing them to keep tacking and try and run the clock out. But
a tiny bit more in
are they on different legs or not?
Let them go. Easy to think that here sitting in the commentary booth, but they might have seen some.
Brits didn't go through the bottom gate, Brian Case is saying. Yes, GBR is a leg behind. Okay. So that makes Glenn Ashby's comment, that makes sense, because he's saying, why didn't the Brits try to line up the Swiss? Well, the Brits are just trying to get foil-borne on some kind of an angle of attack. Okay, so the Alinghi are still leading. There's Bava, I believe. That is Ernesto Bertorelli's boat there in the background, that big white Bava 2. There's the time limit now in the upper left corner, 9 minutes, 42 seconds. Maybe Ineos is going to get up. Under the rules, they cannot match race a yacht on a different leg. If they maneuver against a yacht on a different leg, that would be a penalty. I believe that rule also applies in the America's Cup. That's the normal match racing rules. I think the Brits are just trying to get foil-borne. Maybe they're trying to stay in the TV shot, as the Brits now are going even slower than the Swiss. 9 minutes. Or are the Brits, there's an interesting point. John Emmett saying maybe they're just trying to throw some dirty air at the Swiss to slow them down. We've got an exciting yacht race here in Studio B that we're following. Thanks for all of you for joining us here for this day 3 of the Louis Vuitton Cup semi-finals. The Brits are leading this match 4-0, as you all know, I'm sure. They are on game, set, match point here. What's happening in the NFL? Well, that doesn't start going until tonight, Monday Night Football. 49ers, my home team, lost yesterday, I think. The Detroit Lions, did they lose yesterday as well? Bruce Nelson, time limit racing, tactics, advanced stuff. Yeah, Bruce. Bruce Nelson, with whom I sailed, learned a lot of things from Bruce Nelson. I keep saying every time his name pops up, he probably cringes and says, uh-oh, what's he even going to tell him that he learned from me now? When we were in college together, I a freshman, Bruce a sophomore, at the University of Michigan back in the early 70s. Bruce led what was then a very good top collegiate sailing team, which I was happy to be a proud and junior member.
Speed building post attack is really difficult, but they need to get a wriggle on. They haven't got a hell of a lot of time.
Coming up on 12 minutes now, just under 12 minutes.
Not the most exciting racing we've seen here in Barcelona.
That's the understatement of the day. Glenn Ashby, not the most exciting racing we've seen. There's the time limit now, 7 minutes.
Racing there, just hoping to get something to get them through to that finish line.
Did I say 12 minutes a minute ago? It's five after the hour. 6 minutes, 48 seconds.
Finish line for Alinghi Red Bull Racing, searching for the wind, searching for their first win to keep their hopes alive.
Well, now we can see the finish line in the graphic. It looks like Alinghi are laying the finish line. The Brits sailing over in front of them.
What's interesting is the quiet nature of looking for wind. Normally, both these crews are pretty chatty, but
if the Brits tack on them to try to disturb their air, John Emmett, would you call that a match racing tactic? John Emmett, are you there?
Yeah, I mean, the rules are clear. You can't interfere with another boat on another leg of the course, but if you are literally trying to make way, you may make it a bit more difficult for them. But I don't know. I've got to agree, this isn't a great way to finish a race. But I think it's a bit of a moot point. And hopefully it's some really good lessons for GBR. What does irritate me is the live wind speed where they're saying 7.8 knots or whatever, when it clearly isn't.
Exactly.
That's not particularly helpful.
Exactly. Well, this is starting to look like they might make it.
Pete, are we seeing more wind?
There's a bit more pressure. The Swiss are going 8 knots.
That little bit of pressure that I was talking
They're starting to
about
look
is now
better
filled
here.
in, and that's why Lingy Red Bull Racing have got over 9
They're going 9 knots
You
now.
just see a little bit of weight coming off the rudder. They're in displacement mode. But if this holds, I think they might just get there.
There's now 5 minutes.
Too far to go.
4 minutes, 40 seconds. They're going to make it.
Hold your breath. Hold your breath.
If you're an Lingy
James
Red Bull
Appel, your
Racing fan,
5-1
that
is starting to look
exactly
good.
What you're doing, this is going to come right down to the wire.
Oh, they're going to make it easy. Come
4
on,
minutes
Shirley.
and 44 seconds counting, and that's how close.
You don't have to be
Lingy
Dennis
Red Bull
Conner
Racing
to
are
judge time on
keeping
distance.
the semi-final alive. Get this point. There's still a long way to go.
Boy, he was
Another
good at
race
that.
Today, they have to win.
I didn't sail a lot with Dennis, but the times that I have, he was fun to sail with. He's not as much fun off the water. But on the water, they're happy on that boat. They can see that they're going to get a win, I think.
Great boat handling to just keep
4 minutes, less than 4 minutes now.
boat on the foils. And
They're slowing down.
need a little bit of luck, but you also need to sail the boat well as well.
They're trying to find that speed. Talking about VMG, they're trying to find that VMG angle. Look at the faces of our gang there on the Zoom. Are they going to make it? They're about to score a win. Yes, Steve MacGyver. We got to hear Steve MacGyver. We got to hear his call of the finish.
4-1, and the Swiss are still alive in Barcelona. Yeah, that's what it means. It's a huge win for them. They've maintained a positive eyes forward approach.
Graham Sweeney, your team just got beaten. What are you thinking, Graham?
That's not a huge win. God, man, what's going on? There's no wind. Huge win. Rubbish.
Gordon Smith, did you like that race?
They sailed that race really well, and they looked another day.
Yeah, it wasn't really a race. As I've just written on Facebook, it reminds me of poo sticks. Do you know what poo sticks are?
Not a clue. Tell us what poo sticks are.
It's when, as a child, you all stand on a little bridge over a stream and you all drop a stick in to see who'll race to the next bridge, drifting down the water.
Well, that sounds quite exciting. That sounds like something they would
So
do.
that's kind of what this was, poo sticks.
That sounds like something you do in the Netherlands. But John Lamberts Van Buren we lost, but John Emmett, I think, is reminded of something by your poo stick comment.
I think John is actually watching this in a meeting. That's why he can't reply to you.
John?
I mean,
John Lamberts Van Buren is in a meeting, I think.
I mean, since you've got time to kill, as it were, Tom, I mean, actually, it comes from the Winnie the Pooh stories and the 100 Acre Wood, and that's really close to the family farm in Bullhorn Farm. So I have actually played Pooh Sticks on Pooh Bridge, and you can go there. It's Ashdown Forest. It's about 3 miles away from Wheelwood Reservoir. And when my great uncle died of cancer, I buried him in the Enchanted Place from the book, which is part of the 100 Acre Wood. So Christopher Robin and all that.
Excuse me, Tom. Can John and I just have a moment here? Because this is really important to me. You live next to where they played Pooh Sticks. John?
Yeah. You can go to the bridge and you can see where the book was written, and you can see Eels Field, which is a field which is covered in thistles. And you can actually go to the museum and see all the toys from Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh. And I think it's a fascinating book because if you look, they've all got a little bit of sort of mental difficulty. For example, Eeyore is obviously a bit of a depressive, and his friends all gather round. So the 100 Acre Wood, it's a real place, and I would often go walking there. And I said I remember scattering the ashes of my great uncle there. It was a very snowy day, and a little Robin Redbreast came and ate some of his ashes, which I thought was terribly romantic, and my mum found a little bit upsetting. But there we go. But stories.
If I promise not to stand on your uncle, can I come for a visit next time I'm over?
Yeah, I mean, it's very close. I used to do it on the family farm. You stand on a bridge, you drop a stick, and you rush to the other side, and see who comes out first. So generally you want a stick that's got a large displacement and put it in the center of the river where it's flowing fastest. But
okay, you guys, that is okay, Gordon. Thank you. That was the most interesting thing of the whole day so far, is the poo stick dialogue. I need some alliteration to keep Julia happy. The poo stick dialogue with with everybody's clapping. Ed Worley, did you know about poo sticks?
No, that's wonderful. But my daughter and our favorite book is Winnie the Pooh. And now I have more stories to tell her about that when we visit. So I mean, that's great.
We're never surprised by how expert our Fozy are. And to find out that one of our super Fozy, John Emmett, has not only played poo sticks, that was brought to the table, shall we say, by Gordon Smith. But Gordon's going to go visit him now. I want a video, guys. When you do that, we need a video of the two of you playing poo sticks in that what was it called, John? What's the name of the wood?
100-acre
wood.
John Emmett, what's the name of the wood?
Yeah, it's the 100-acre wood, and the bit at the top with the surround of trees is called the Enchanted Place, and it's beautiful, and people spend a lot of time walking around there with the gorse and the bracken and so on. It's a really popular place with dog walkers, and you can see the inspiration for the book. I mean, since we have time to kill, I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, and you can see the two towers facing each other in Birmingham and this sort of thing. So it's nice to know where stuff has come from.
Okay, you guys. Okay, I want a video. And there's a question here. Phil Yeoman say he loves the Pooh stories. They want to know if when you do this, and you're going to get a video for us of the two of you, two of our super Fozy, our Zoomers, John Emmett, Gordon Smith, going to that, whatever it's called, the 100 forest? Wood?
100-acre wood.
100-acre wood, and you're going to drop sticks in and race to the net. We got to see that. And we've got to have a video, and we want to know if you can use foiling sticks. Is there such a... Gordon, is there foiling sticks, do you think? You're laughing. You're bouncing your computer all over your lap there. You're in Studio A, I see.
No, a foiling stick would be very progressive. I like it.
You are the progressive, our most progressive Fozy. As we watch replays here now, that was a wonderful story, guys. You never know what the Fozy are going to... Julia's upstairs. I can hear her laughing through the floor. Not quite. But she will be enjoying it.
Tom, can I just say about Winnie the Pooh is that the saddest 2 pages of English literature are the last 2 pages of Winnie the Pooh. Absolutely gut-wrenching. And I think it's such a wonderful book.
The Pooh Stick Regatta. Please break out the bagpipes. Graham Sweeney, you're going to have to add somehow the Pooh Stick to your whack-a-mole. Can you somehow add those two together? We need to come up with a graphic, Graham Sweeney.
I tell you something, if they do get together and they do go to the 100-acre wood, I will dedicate a trophy to them.
Not that sailing vessel Mary that's on your mantle there behind you. We talked about that the other day with John Lammerts.
I think John's coming to collect it.
Yeah, that was an interesting back and forth because John Lammerts was reminding us that it was really the Dutch who invented yacht racing or yachting. The word yacht, we spell it with a Y, but they spell it with a J. We think of the Netherlands as really the birthplace of modern yacht racing. That's the story, Graham, of how the Queens and the Kings and the Dutch giving you that yacht, you the Brits.
Yeah, basically, there was no such thing as yachting until that yacht was gifted. I mean, it was basically just a vessel, which was a demonstration of what the Dutch were capable of. They had much more advanced shipwrights. They had wind-powered, using the windmills. They were using wind-powered saws, so they could make nice long planks to make nice, slender, light vessels, and sturdy vessels. And so they sent this thing over basically as a sales pitch, I'm sure. And I think what basically happened was the king got so into it, he would just go out, and the rest of his court thought he was absolutely crazy for doing it, because this was some guy that stayed on terra firma. He didn't go out on a boat, didn't go anywhere apart from up the River Thames. And next thing you know, he's racing up and down around all the work boats and the fishing boats. And, it was quite a scene. And he got the rest of the court involved. And then from that moment on, yachting became a thing. So, yeah.
And the year was 1620, roundabout?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay. People are saying, Jay Rendell is saying, he's up in Minnesota, he's saying, Graham, that was really amusing. And, you're not going to get that on ESPN Plus. The Fozy come through again. Our Zoomers, and you got to go back, as Julia would remind us, you got to go back and read the comments, because Ed Worley has said AC displacement sailing is now officially called poo stick racing. There's John Lambert saying it was 1660. 1660. Andrew Barkworth, if they are going to race in displacement mode, may I suggest a winged keel? Well, they're playing a package about American Magic. American Magic also need a win here. They're down 4-0 in their match against the Italians, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. They are obviously not up on their foils at the moment. We have a delay to the start of that race. I guess we have to ask each other, do we think there's going to be any more racing today? Let's see what they're saying here on this.
Yeah, it was interesting last race and got pretty light at the bottom of the race course and
Tommy
all over
Burnham
the
there
race course
on the
eventually,
right.
but started down here at the bottom where we are sitting right now. So it's a tricky race course, and we just got to go out and sail with confidence.
Yeah, nothing to lose, Tom, in this one. Put the big gear on and...
T. Hutch, there in the middle, the president of sailing operations. Yeah, it's a blustery day in Barcelona. Okay, to be fair, we saw this also. We saw this kind of racing in Auckland as well. We have lost days. We lost a lot of days in Valencia in 07. And that's the same weather regime. Valencia is just down the coast, a couple-hour drive from Barcelona. And now they're trying to fill. I guarantee you, they got the clock rolling. I guarantee you that we've had a more entertaining dialogue here from our Zoomers than whatever these croutons, well, they're not croutons, there's one of them's a crouton, but then what are the croutonic lead commentator can gin up on the world feed. Are they talking to who?
It doesn't really change things too much.
Still to Tom Burnham.
Yesterday to today. It's still
their head coach there on the right. Hell of a good sailor, longtime friend. The text from American Magic, Alan Long said they're going to race. Well, I think they're social media folks. You're not sure you can, that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, let alone what is going on the commentary. Is this real time? If so, no, that's a video package. That's not right now because the surface of the water is too rough. Heidi Purcell, who's there in Barcelona, longtime friend, her late husband, they used to come to all the America's Cups as far back. I can remember them being in Newport, I think. Isn't that right, Heidi? Weren't you in Newport in '83? I used to play hockey with your late great husband, Dave Karstens. Okay, they're running a package. They're talking about rugby. The All Blacks. I didn't know the Italians had a rugby team. I suppose all countries have a rugby team. Matthias Collins wondering if they practice the roll tack with swinging foil arms. Oh, you guys are hilarious today. Graham Sweeney, do they have rugby in Italy?
Yeah, so I'm pretty proud of, to be able to call him my dad.
Did we?
I think they do. Yes, yes, they have a couple of teams. They're quite good.
Played for a club called Television.
Ed Worley, are you a rugby fan here in the States?
Sacred Heart College in Auckland.
No.
There's the most succinct answer of the day. But,
I love
there's a
baseball and I love
collegiate.
sailing.
Sorry, say again?
I love baseball and I love sailing.
Well, there's a lot of collegiate rugby. There's some kind of a professional rugby league here in the States now, too, isn't there? But regardless, apparently there's some Italian rugby because they're talking about it. This guy's a cycler, apparently, for Luna Rossa Prataprelli. I didn't catch his name. And a rugby player. He looks like a big, strong boy. Matthias Collins saying after it became Olympic, that is rugby, even in Paraguay. Paraguay, there is rugby now. Do we have rugby in the next Olympics, Matthias? Do you know? And he's saying yes. And Heidi Purcell confirming yes, they were in Newport 1983, and she's been to just about all the America's Cups. She from my home yacht club in Michigan, Portage Yacht Club. Rugby sevens in the Olympics, Rick Bannero is telling us. Rugby sevens. That was one basketball sport I didn't quite understand. Gordon Smith, they've got the regular basketball, Gordon, and then they've got this 3-on-3 stuff in the Olympics. What do you think of 3-on-3? Since you're such a progressive, Gordon, what do you think of 3-on-3 basketball?
I don't think much of basketball, full stop. So it even falls even further below my horizon. But the rugby sevens at the Olympics was excellent. And in fact, the US women's team did very well. And did they win a good medal? But it was very exciting sport. It was really excellent.
Rugby sevens.
Yeah, that's 7-a-side as opposed to 15-a-side. And sevens is very widespread. You also get countries like Argentina, of course, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea. There's a lot of very competitive sport rugby, particularly South Africa, of course, are really in the world's elite.
Yeah, I was just going to say, aren't the top teams Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Ireland, the UK? What else?
Well, I would put France also up there. Of course, you've got Scotland. The Italians are playing extremely well. Argentina have the Pumas. There's a lot of very good teams out there.
Well, I'm afraid that here in the States, France, Rick Bannero is saying Fiji. Yeah, I remember the Fijians now, Don Lunabos. Wales, Rick Bannero is reminding us. John Emmett, you were just up in Wales. Did you see any
sheep?
Did you see any rugby in Wales while you were up there racing?
Actually, to tell the truth, I didn't see a lot. We had a huge storm come through on the second day of racing. I didn't think it could get any wetter or the wind go any further right. And I started by the pin end and probably sailed 15% more distance than the rest of the fleet to the windward mark. But yeah, great. It's a good example for topography of meteorology. Wales is very wet, very green, and has lots of sheep. But when you talk about rugby, you need to think about Ireland and Wales and England, or you'll upset a lot of people. They even have their own language in Welsh. It's not just Scottish, where it's a very strong intellect. There's a bloke called Araf who drives all around Wales far too fast, so they have to write it on all the roads to tell him to slow down.
Do you know that in the sailing team, the 50-footer that I race of late down at Balboa Yacht Club, It's Okay, Andy Rose and co., they have a saying that if one of the young guys, we have a bunch of Utes from the movie, the famous movie, Utes on the boat, and if they have too much to drink, we say they're starting, and they get a little slobbery in their talk, we say they're speaking Welsh. No comment on that, John?
No comment. I mean, it's funny. I mean, the language that they do. There are some people who are very passionate about keeping the Welsh language alive. And the strange thing is, I don't think there's been any new words in the last 20 years. So it'd be Wi-Fi, microwave, computer, because those words weren't in the original Welsh language and nothing's been put in there. But yeah, especially, I would say probably in Northern Wales, there's some very hardened Welsh people. But I mean, we have people in Portland who's never left the island. So there we go. But I mean, I think in terms of getting sailing as a sport for everyone, even if I do half jokingly complain about the 7 hours drive, I will, if I can, try and go to the Nationals in Pwllheli next year, or go to the Nationals in Largs or whatever. And I'm sure Graham's going to tell me Largs isn't that far north.
Graham Sweeney, how far north is Largs, Scotland?
I honestly don't know. It's south of me.
Graham's about as far north as you can get in the British Isles, aren't you, Graham?
Yeah, I'm one island hop away from the most northerly point.
Why did you
which is
move up there? We've never asked you this. Why did you move to Scotland? You got a fabulous house and spread up there. What took you to Scotland from, I guess you were down in southern England growing up, weren't you?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to retire, and living down south is very expensive, and it was getting a bit crowded. So I just decided to up sticks, chuck everything in the back of a truck, and come up here, and bought the first house I saw, and that was it.
A decisive man. Mark, this is the last comment on rugby, I think. This is Marcos Weinstein saying, lest we forget, the U.S. women's team won bronze. So further to the comment we had from Gordon Smith, bronze in rugby and first ever medal for USA in apparently that sport in Ilona, Ilona Maher, the star. My family's from the town of Worley in southern England. Ed Worley is saying. Okay, to get away from people, that's why he moved, John Emmett is saying, Graham. Is that why you moved, to get away from people?
Yeah.
Okay, what have we got going here? We got another video package running about American Magic. So we're not anywhere close to racing. Mark Holland is saying it's now 15:29 is the projected start time. Well, that's 8 minutes from now in Barcelona. I don't think that's going to happen, Mark Holland. So they're running this package on American Magic. As we are 22 minutes after 6, we've been live now since 5 a.m. as usual for these watch parties. 5 a.m. here in San Francisco, now 6:22. In Barcelona, it is 3:22 p.m., 15:22, and we are in delay mode as they're playing a video package about the American team, New York Yacht Club's American Magic. They are down 4-0 in their semi. The Italians up 4-0 in the first to win 5. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you on here, know. But we just had an interesting race in the other semifinal. The Swiss coming from behind to win that after the Brits fell off their foils, and later the Swiss fell off their foils too, and they were both in displacement mode. The Swiss so far ahead that the Brits were on the prior leg, still ostensibly going downwind to the gate. They shortened the course and finished it upwind, and the Swiss finished barely within the 45-minute time limit with, 3 or 4 minutes to spare. And now they have chalked up a win. They have a notch. They have one win, and it's 4-1, the Brits leading that semifinal. John Kroom, the New York Yacht Club, one of their cyclors. Marcos Weinstein's maybe smarter than all of us. He's sitting poolside at his hotel in Barcelona, and he can confirm there is 0 chance of wind coming up in the next 30 minutes. I hope not. I don't want it to ruin. He doesn't want any wind. He doesn't want it to ruin his tan. Alistair Murray, Mr. President, one more postponement and I'm off to bed. I've enjoyed the banter, you blokes. Well, in Sydney, it's 23:24. It's just 24 minutes after 11 p.m., and he's going to go to bed because he gets up early every day. This getting up at 4 a.m. stuff takes a toll on me, but the rest of you in the afternoon in Scotland and in England and in Denmark, Graham Sweeney, it's not so hard for you to come on here live.
Well, I had to get myself out of bed. I am retired and decided that I was going to have a lay-in today. And so I did drag myself out.
What time is it for you when we go live? 1 in the afternoon?
Yeah, I think I got up about midday.
What time did you go to bed?
Probably about 1 o'clock. So, yeah, about 1 a.m.
Well, you are retired. The problem for me is not getting up early. When I was in college, as Heidi knows, and I ran the kids hockey program in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I grew up, and you know, college, you think, oh, you're out all night partying, but I had to be at the hockey rink at 6 in the morning to supervise whatever. In fact, we had 4 different rinks going on, so I had a couple of young guys helping me at different rinks, but you had to be there in case a referee didn't show up, or worse than that, the arena manager wouldn't show up. And you'd have to get on the phone to somebody. There was a hotline for Parks Rec Department to come open the arena, or you got to know the managers and their phone numbers, but that's before cell phones. So it was always dodgy getting somebody. But getting up early is not the problem. For me, the problem is going to bed early and going to sleep at 10 o'clock at night, so you get a few hours of rest before we go live at 5. But Ed Worley, you don't seem to have any problem getting up, because when I come down, get into the studio here at 4:15 and start pushing buttons to get us on the air, Ed, you're right on the Zoom the minute I push that Zoom computer and get things running.
Yeah, sometimes I just stay up in my workshop and work on my models and work on stuff like that. It's easier for me just to stay up and try to go to bed and sleep for 3 hours and get up. It doesn't work. So I'll go to bed after the race is over.
That's why you're on when I get in the studio and start turning the computers on. Well, you sound like Sweeney. It sounds like the two of you are owls. Bloody hell.
Well, I did just retire, so now I have time to build my America's Cup models that I've collected over the years.
Richard Lawton is getting tired of all this, probably getting tired of our banter too. Let's get racing. Well, what we got is 9:37. Here's what Richard Gladwell likes to call a crotch shot. I've got one of these guys, maybe him, is on my the cover photo on my Facebook page this morning. There's the real live feed. If you're joining us, this is a watch party. We don't show the live coverage, or only clips, we cut to it briefly. Because we don't want to get a copyright strike. We're restreaming the live feed coming off ESPN Plus here in the States. John Emmett and others of you are watching it on YouTube or Facebook or whatever local coverage you have in your country, the so-called unilateral coverage on cable or broadcast TV in some countries. 8:45 now is what they're saying. They're hoping to get racing started. Somehow I doubt we're going to have any racing today at all within their 3-hour TV window. Maybe will extend that. And that begs the question, what happens if, Ed Worley, can you mute yourself, please? We're getting rustling from your plastic bag there. Thank you. Yeah, that begs the question of what happens now if, in fact, they don't get any more racing in today, and we've got one semifinal on 4-1 and the other semifinal on 4-0 if we don't have any more racing. Will they race tomorrow, which is a reserve day? It's not a lay day. It's not a for sure day off, but a reserve day in the schedule. So Ian Murray could send them back out to try to get racing in tomorrow. I don't know what the forecast is. Let's see what Richard Gladwell thinks is the forecast, or any of others of you. If Mark... let's see if we need Mark, if he is on. I don't see Mark, our weather guru here for Sailing Illustrated. Mark Michelson, I don't see him on. But if tomorrow looks raceable, I suspect Ian will go out and try to race. But that means another day for TV, for volunteers, for race committee, making it 4 days in a row where they have to get up, get out there, fire their boats up. And if the forecast is not that great, then I suspect they will have a lay day tomorrow, use the reserve day as a lay day, and then come out on Wednesday. See previous comment about YouTube. Oh, YouTube is not being blocked in the U.S. today? I wonder why that is. Are you seeing it for sure on, Rick Hayes, are you seeing YouTube on the YouTube channel from the America's Cup? Or are you seeing some other crouton who is taking the feed and then streaming it himself or herself on YouTube? We saw that the other day. Yeah, tomorrow is scheduled for Youth AC, the ILCA. Who's the ILCA UK? Who is that? Welcome to the show on Facebook. I'm watching YouTube Live. Ed Worley is saying, on the America's Cup YouTube channel, Ed, or some other YouTube channel? And maybe they figure that the coverage, the pickup on ESPN Plus has been so light. I paid the $10.99. It's not a princely sum. Oh, it's Emmett. John Emmett is ILCA UK. Okay. So I paid it. Julia has paid it, so we could have it for sure. And I do have a VPN. I paid that fee to have well, I've had the VPN. I paid a yearly annual fee for it. And that, of course, so we can do Sydney Hobart in December and so on. We do use the VPN for that. It looks like the official channel, Ed Worley is saying, John Keogh is saying, on YouTube. So you can watch it there instead of on ESPN Plus. I guess it's running 4 or 5 seconds behind. John Keogh or Ed Worley, how many seconds behind, if you could put that in the comments, do you think YouTube is running from what we're seeing here on ESPN Plus, just out of curiosity? The minimum win for the youth races is 7.5 knots in those AC 40s. What's the commentary here?
Semi-finals. They are in pole position with Jimmy Spitler.
Pole position? Claire Harrington, Vice Commodore Harrington is saying tomorrow's forecast is a bit better, 8 to 10 southeast, east-southeast. 5 seconds, YouTube is running behind. Oh, John Keogh's YouTube is 3 seconds ahead. Ed Worley's YouTube is 5 seconds behind. Buster Pike, yeah, you will have on YouTube, you should have 4K if you've got a 4K display. They are, I believe, streaming in 4K on YouTube worldwide. I mean, the feed, the host broadcast in Barcelona, I think, is going out in 4K and, yeah, 4K HDR even. Okay. John Emmett is saying. I'm on ESPN Plus, which is a streaming service of our big cable sports network here, ESPN, of course, who the America's Cup put ESPN on the map back in 83 and 87. I guess it was ABC in 83 that ran the Cup. In 87, ESPN covered it down in Frio in Perth, WA. Well, look at this. We got a preview going on here of this next match between the Americans and the Italians. So that's a little more optimistic. Can you all, with younger eyes than mine, can you tell on a 4K display? Can you really, not between 30 frames a second and 60 frames a second? I can tell the difference. We can all tell the difference, even at an advanced age. I mean, Julia at age 85 can tell that difference. And she's, of course, had her eyes fixed. Her eyes are arguably better than mine. But can you really tell the difference between 4K and 1080p? You got to have a great monitor. You got to have probably it running at 60K, maybe HDR. We're nerding out here, but 26,000 viewers on YouTube, Buster Pike is saying. That's worldwide, Buster. Globally, 26,000. They've run about 20,000. They're live.
So let's go racing. It'll be
2.5 minutes. They are live. They've got Breeze. Are they displacing or foiling?
Prada Pirelli. How big a day is this?
Cedric Lorch says he can tell the difference. Yeah, I have a 4K. The monitor on which I'm switching this is a 4K HDR monitor. I really struggle to see the difference between 1080 and 1080 and 4K.
Green light for American Magic.
Here it is. Here's the entry. Okay, the next bet, yeah, Marcos Weinstein, you lost this bet, but the next bet is, will they stay on their foils? A must-win race for the Americans, needless to say. Minute 50 to the start. In marginal racing conditions. Emmett is cheering for the Americans. Probably a lot of you are. I'd like to see this series extended. I certainly would.
Speed is their friend.
We'll see how the America. Yeah, Matthias Collins, should we have a bet as to who will fall off first? Well, Cedric, as you can imagine here in the studio, I've got all the right equipment. I've got high-speed cabling, et cetera, et cetera. Gap off and go for speed, John Emmett is saying. Going to have a port starboard here. Going to be a protest from the USA? No, apparently not. Less than a minute.
American Magic here, huge amount of time to kill. Didn't get a piece of the Italians. So
looks like the Americans want the what we call the pin end, the left end looking uphill. The Italians have jibed around. Or did they tack, I guess, on the starboard? Well, yeah, Graham Sweeney, switching from 480 to 4K is massive. That's Jimmy Spithill, slowly coming down, guys. 22 seconds. Where's the other boat? The Americans above the line. We've seen this before from Tom Slingsby. Going to dip the line with 9 seconds to go. Likewise, the Italians will dip the line to build speed. And the Italians are racing, racing, racing. You heard Francesco Bruni say. They are trying to be wide right, trying to gauge off. Big gap, yeah, to windward. So no problem with disturbed air coming off the rig of the Americans. And the Italians with a slight lead as they approach the upwind left boundary. This looks like a repeat of race 4 when the Italians got over there, tacked ahead and to leeward, and sailed out from underneath the Americans and went on to win by quite a bit. Well, the Americans caught up in that race, didn't they? But this is a replay of both races 3 and 4. Here they go, the Americans and Italians simultaneous jibing, tacking. Man, I need more coffee. And the Italians to windward now of the Americans. They're going to force the Americans to have to do another tack back fairly quickly. Yeah, that's as close to a slam dunk, John Emmett, as we've seen. Textbook match racing, yes, indeed. Both sailing pretty low right now. The Americans trying to get through to leeward, get air forward, stay air forward. Americans trying to sail to leeward, as John Emmett is saying in the comments. Yeah. Looks like a little more pressure. The Whack-A-Mole Boost-Tick Boat Park Regatta is on. Looks like they're both heating up now a bit. And tacking away for clear air now. John Emmett, complete control to Italy. Italians tack. 120-meter lead. Ed Worley, your team is trailing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. My heart's in that we're going to win. I think the guys are going to fight like heck. And it's still close.
115 meters. The Delta. The Italians now breaking off the cover. The Italians headed to the upwind left on starboard tack.
Looks like American Match is trying to get out of phase.
Yeah, and I think the Italians just trying to minimize their tacking on this leg. I mean, they look quick through the water, but we know they're just marginal. It's just marginal. They sail into a hole, a patch of light air, and okay, they managed to get through that tack okay and powered back up. Let's see if the Americans can do the same over on the upwind right.
This is the race committee. We are moving the Leeward gate, lengthening the course to 1.3 nautical
Okay,
miles.
that's a sure sign there's a little more pressure. The race committee is lengthening. What'd they say, 1.3 nautical miles? We saw as much as, almost 2 nautical miles yesterday. 1.3, the distance down to the bottom gate now as the Italians through first at the top gate.
The Italians in the box seat at the moment.
6 seconds.
There goes American Magic taking the right-hand markers.
Yeah, 1.3 nautical miles, the distance down to the bottom gate. Thanks, Mark Holland. What was that delta? 17 seconds.
Really critical these next jibes from both teams.
Is right on the edge. We're seeing 6 or 7 knots at the top.
They're saying 10 knots, 10.4. Showing pressure in the downwind right, but not much up the track where the boats are now. That jibe looks okay.
So, how about that? Goes back suggesting we might just see a lead change. Let's see actually how this one unfolds.
Yeah, John, I wonder what they're showing. It's obviously not the average wind even across the track, maybe peak wind. Here come the Americans back across on port. Give way boat, but there's Italians crossing easily clear ahead.
Breeze wise here, guys.
I think along the shore on average is a little better, but
That's Jimmy asking Francesco. Francesco saying it looks a little better shoreside, I think is what he said, meaning the downwind left.
Francesco Bruni so good at just keeping the tempo down.
Feels good.
Yeah, no white caps.
Slightly more pressure down the bottom end of this course here, so they're out of the danger zone a little bit as they get further down. But they have
Heidi Purcell, who's there in Barcelona, out on a boat, saying there's no way there's 10 knots.
So hard.
Bruce Nelson saying not even 10 meters per second, which would be 5-ish knots. Pretty light.
Land is not that hot.
The Italians with a comfortable 200-plus meter lead and slowly extending, John Emmett says.
nice, good grip.
I'm fully powered up.
Yeah, nice shot, guys.
That's a good angle for the bid.
This is Barcelona, no Shiza. You think? That must be an ad for Barcelona, their tourism board or something. The crotch shot. There's Richard Gladwell's favorite shot of the whole 37th edition of the America's Cup. Americans closing up here a bit.
He's not delaying.
Another maneuver coming up for the Americans before they get to the bottom.
Another maneuver, another jibe. Glenn Ashby, call it a jibe. That's what it is.
Going about 10 to the jibe. We just got a little pass that, okay?
Jimmy Spithill, very upbeat, very positive sounding. They're going to soak to the gate, or are they going to jibe? They're going to jibe. That makes sense. Jibe and go to the downwind right end of the gate. The Italians, so far, in the lead. And if they can maintain that. Did I just hear an industrial comment off one of the boats?
Both boats.
Apparently not.
Pivotal day for American Magic.
American Magic is getting the split. They're rounding the upwind right end of the gate now, headed to the upwind right. Getting the split. Will Alinghi tack immediately and cover, or proceed to the boundary?
2 or 3 tacks.
What was the delta? I missed it. Stays was the same. 17.
Just having a look at the wind field here. It looks lighter as they're going to progress up this racetrack.
The Cap Gemini overlay. Looks like there's more pressure on the right, if you believe it. 17 seconds. Thanks, Claire. Thank you, Rick. So the same, 17. John Van Landegem. USA gaining. Maybe more pressure in the on the right. Staying on the foils. Here we go, boys.
Little gain back to the Americans. Surely.
Italians are just across, I think I heard them say on the American boat. Americans right of way. Green circle.
Give way boat.
Red circle, port tack, give way boat. Oh, they're ducking. We got a lead change. A cautious Jimmy Spithill or Francesco Bruni making a very cautious. I thought they were across, but maybe not. Was not a narrow cross, John Emmett. I surprised me too. Now can American Magic, as you heard.
Oh, and a huge moment.
Oh, a penalty.
The Italians, they're not staying clear enough.
When they crossed astern, those diamonds around the boat must have crossed. That surprised me too, John, but even more surprising is they crossed what looked like nicely astern, but you got Richard Slater and his team of umpires in the IBC, International Broadcast Center. They got the Italians are going to have to slow down here.
Didn't seem like much of a penalty there for Lunerosity.
Or have they already taken the penalty? They're back on the lead. We've had two lead changes.
Americans now having to keep to the right, possibly more pressure out that way.
There's a replay. Well, no, that's not a replay. That's live. Are they going to penalize the Americans for that? No. They're on the third leg, uphill. There's a replay of the diamonds outlining the keep clear zones. Oh, man. That was a penalty? Excuse me. That was pretty darn close, umpires. As an old hockey referee, you know, you could call a penalty on every time two players go into the corner. You call elbowing or something, but bloody. Okay, Claire Harrington, I'm going to use it. Bloody hell.
Bit more pressure on the right. We're on the right of the two boats, and I think we've got this effect.
Peter Lester out there on the water saying he thinks there's more pressure on the right, which is the whack-a-mole righty here. Whoever gets to the right comes across to the right, takes the lead. The Itals look like the angles don't look so good for the Itals. They come off the foils almost. The Americans now on starboard, the right-of-way boat. Going to have a duck again from the, or are they going to cross? Italians got to keep clear. There's the protest from the Americans.
On the Italians, across there. Penalty. There we see it.
B on B.
Again, to the Italians, they do have to lose 75 metres.
So it's a boat on boat protest and a penalty, which means they got to drop 75 meters. They got to slow down, drop 75 meters of their position on the course. I don't think it's 75 meters behind. Okay.
A really, really close cross there.
Come on, we want to see the diamonds, guys.
Pushing it too hard.
Yeah, it's weird, John Emmett. Let's go to John Emmett because it looked like they had a better cross, an easier cross the first time, and then this time they had a closer cross and took it and got penalized. John, what do you think?
Well, the first thing I'd say is it's always easy to win every race from the rear, but it's probably easier to win it from your sofa. But it's a bit strange when they are holding approximately 50-meter lead not to try and cross, whereas when they were absolutely bleeding distance and crossed with about 20, 30 meters, they didn't try and duck. But I'm sure it's much, much harder when you've got the steering wheel in front of you. But,
did you see that? There was a protest from Italy in that crossing at the gate, and to see if the Americans get a penalty now. The Italians protested at that port starboard cross at the gate. The Italians trailing into the gate. I don't see a penalty to the USA. They're saying 9
I mean,
knots.
as long as the judging is consistent and everybody knows what it is, then that's what it is.
Well, we've had 2 lead changes. The Americans are leading at the top gate. I didn't get the seconds in Delta. They went through the gate virtually simultaneously. 3 seconds, Mark Holland is saying. Thank you, Mark. The Fozy are great. It's really, if I were sitting here by myself, I wouldn't.
The race committee, we are moving the windward gate,
shortening
the course.
Shortening the course, okay. I wouldn't have half the fun sitting here by myself. I'd be texting away with some of you, and Americans still in the lead. They have starboard right of way coming across now. Ed Worley, are your spirits lifted by all of this?
Yes, it is. It's a great race. American Magic is really fighting great. This is good. This is really good.
This is a close cross again. There can't be a problem with that. Cautious optimism, Ed, or are you a bit puckered up there?
I'm watching every second of it. I'm optimistic. I think the guys are really fighting like heck. So, they got to get the momentum back, and they're doing a great job at it. So, where everybody said that they were out of it, this is a pretty darn close race, isn't it?
What are you thinking, Gordon Smith? Can the Americans hold on, or are we going to see another lead change? We got a GPS lead change here.
I have no idea if they can hold on, but my view is that they've been very close to LRPP throughout this series, and really the question to me is, if you're losing by so little, why aren't you winning? And that would kind of be the same in this race. I feel they should win. So let's do it.
Well, you've said that. You've been right. And Heidi Purcell is saying she's out on the water, and she said we can't see what's going on. So she really appreciates the comments. As the Americans seem to be pressured up a bit, it's going to be a close cross. They're the giveaway boat on port tack coming across. Well, it's not going to be a close cross. Yeah, you can hear Francesco Bruni saying, I think they're across. Americans, the giveaway boat on port tack, wind coming over the port or left side. Italians hunting down a bit. John Emmett thinks you want the bottom left. You're saying bottom left looking upwind, so where the Italians are headed, John Emmett, you like the bottom left track, side of the track looking upwind, bottom right going downwind? Is that what you think, John?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's all about pressure, and there's a lot more pressure at that part of the course, and first one in it, rich will get richer. So they need to line up very carefully for that bottom gate.
Yeah, they didn't really get out there. The Italians didn't go all the way. The American starboard advantage coming in are going to cross ahead and maintain a slim lead here at the gate. This is rounding inside. Protest from the Italians. Hairpin turn. Protest from the Italians in that big hairpin turn. They protest Italians again. They've fallen off the foils. Well, that was not so smart. No penalty. No penalty. Okay, well, that Jimmy Spithill was a bit too aggressive. As you heard Glenn Ashby saying, going for the kill, because not only did they try to round inside, they've fallen off the foils. More wind, bottom left looking uphill, and that's what Jimmy was going for. He wanted to get over there in that pressure. John Rogers, yes, he's cheering for the Americans. Alistair Murray, you're still with us. I thought you were going to bed. Almost midnight in Sydney. There's a replay. Now they've got PIP. They must be listening to us, gang. A Fozy flop by LRPP. Yep, Marcos.
simulation availability.
Gordon Smith,
Saying that it was all clear.
now what do you think?
Gave enough room to the Italians to round.
Well, as I said, I think LRPP was being a bit greedy. I think they really should have considered the strength of the wind and gone a little more conservatively and let their boat speed and placing on the water win the race, not trying to pinch a mark. And I think they're probably have paid the price. I think that's going to be a victory for AM.
Look at that. They certainly are down, still glued to the water. A day for the underdogs, Andrew Watson is saying. Heidi Purcell, woohoo! And I think Matthias Collins is right. His comment saying they actually pushed American Magic out a bit. I think when the Italians came in with the overlap and had an inside, I think they had that properly, and American Magic did sail a little wider, which maybe even helped keep them up on their foils. And they are continuing foil-borne, whereas the Italians are, you can see, are only going 7 or 8 knots. So, Gordon, you may be right. Well, Graham Sweeney, how'd you like that leeward rounding?
It was a bit aggressive, wasn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, we're looking at this. They're on the knife edge, and it's you know, who's going to win depends if they can stay on these blades.
Yep. There are all 4 cameras on American Magic. Terry still thumbs up. He's a little happier. T. Hutch, as the Americans approaching a kilometer lead, as Lunarosa still displacing, still pushing water, as John Emmett says. TV producer dreamed these results. Yeah, it's starting to feel a little bit like the NBA in this country, where you're never quite sure if they're producing close matches by virtue of, shall we say, officiating. And that was not, I don't think Richard Slater, I'm not saying for a moment that Richard Slater and his happy band of umpires made dodgy calls there, but Matthias Collins is saying, wow, this guy's as biking like my mom does to keep up her 78 Parkinson's stable. Big lead as the Italians still stuck in the water doing, what, 12 knots or less, and the Americans leading by 1,200 meters, more than a kilometer. Marcos Weinstein, yeah, the fans are winning. They've shortened the lake to 9 nautical miles. Mark Holland, our statistician, is telling us they're still showing 8.5 knots down here. Yeah, right. Those old TUI ads in New Zealand. I remember living down there and seeing up on the billboards. Yeah, right. Might. That's Glennie Ashby, or that's.
They came into that, you know, the bottom mark with a speed differential that was, what, 4 knots in favor.
Yeah, Peter Lester saying there was 4 knot speed differential. Well, maybe. Hairpin turns are never, that's what John Kostecki, the new Star World champion, John Kostecki, who was the tactician on the American boat here in 2013, and then he got eased by Larry and Russell in favor of Sir Ben Ainsley, and thus began, I think we lost another race after that, but thus began the big climb back and the come from behind. There will be some people hoping and thinking that maybe American Magic could mount such a comeback in this semifinal. Reprise 2013, when the team came from 8-3 to win 9-8, the American team, that is. 2 kilometer lead now. We're showing 1,600 meter lead, John. The American Magic through the top gate the last time. Can they stay on the foils going downhill?
Dream about what could be on their homeward leg now, American Magic.
Well, if you're just joining us, it's 4-1 in the other semifinals. The same thing happened to the leading team in that semifinal, meaning the Brits. They fell off their foils, and Alinghi went on to win, although they also fell off their foils, and they went on to win. just before the time limit ran out on a shortened 5-leg course. I mean, what was it, 3 or 4 minutes? Scott Davis saying, yeah, they live to sail another day. Lee, are you happy? Lee Borthwick?
Absolutely.
In Pensacola, you must be pretty happy.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
Ed Worley is smiling. He's got a Cheshire cat grin on his face. Ed, you liking this?
Just remaining on the
Yes, I am very much. The guys are really dug deep and they're really doing a great job. I'm really happy.
Yeah, but it wasn't anything special except good sailing by American Magic. It was really the huge mistake, that hairpin turn, as I call it, which, as I was saying, John Kostecki was fond of doing here in 2013. You can't, sorry, Lee, you can't, when you talk, I've got the Zoom on speaker view, and it automatically turns to you. So hold your thoughts, please, until we invite you in. Thank you.
Okay.
Matthias Collins, I don't think this is the best way to pedal. Yeah, I think a lot of people, Matthias, are thinking that the recumbent cycling is just and American Magic has said they knew that going that route was going to cost them, what, 10% or so in power, but they thought the lower windage and getting the weight of the cyclers, actually by turning them around in the boat and facing aft, they'd get the mechanism, or more of the mechanism, and the torso further forward in the boat, which is good, apparently. And the lower freeboard, especially in the back end of the boat, freeboard being the distance from the water up to the highest point in the boat. Richard Lawton says it's just simple. American Magic has grown a pair of cojones and is sailing better, but I think that hairpin turn, I mean, you got to give the Italians credit, but Gordon Smith giving credit to him, as they have, American Magic has been very close. All these matches have been reasonably close, at least in apparent potential, as the Americans are going to take this one. And they're going to win and stay alive maybe another day. We're going to get more racing today. We're 2 hours into today's window. They have gone 3 hours before.
American Magic have been promising us.
Gordon Smith, you were right about the potential of American Magic, especially in this lighter air, flat water.
In this particular instance, I think they've been close racing, and I think, someone was going to win this race, and I think, why not AM? I think they deserved it. But in this particular instance, I think the same with the Alinghi victory. I don't think they're skillful wins. I think you take the point and are happy about it, but I think really, you've got to win races by being better to do it consistently. Taking one like this is great, but you've got to win a series of them, and that takes skill and boat speed.
Indeed. Good points. Claire Harrington is happy. She's got 4 American flags up there in the comments. And at least American Magic, good point, Matthias Collins. They foiled all the way, but again, it was the mistake, I got to call it that, at the hairpin turn. They wanted apparently to go to the upwind left. Several of you said, John Emmett and others, go, go, go. We got this. So, yeah, I think that's what was the root cause of the Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli. They're just being a little too aggressive, which we know Jimmy Spithill is capable of being a bit aggressive. Let's see what Tommy has to say.
Of all the teams,
along
with the Alinghi Red Bull race, they've all been fighting hard to try and find that sweet spot.
We just missed the comment from Lucas Calabrese, who is the substitute B Helm.
They still have another race today.
Do we believe in magic?
So they're not out of it yet, but
that the comment echoing the 1980 Olympics when the American hockey team beat the Russians. Mark Holland, a very clever comment there. And for extra credit, Mark, who was the commentator on, I think it was ABC, who said that, do we believe in magic? When they won. and beat the Soviets.
So finally, Luna Rossa up and going, but it's
LRPP back on the foils. Long way behind. Jonathan Shore, great sailor from Newport, Rhode Island, a product of two other great sailors, Bill Shore and his mother, who was the 470 sailor, the first female sailor to win a medal in the Olympics in 1988, Lynn Jewel Shore. Al Michaels, Mark Wharton Reed, he's the one who said, "Do you believe in miracles?" It wasn't magic. He said, "Do you believe in miracles?" when the Americans beat the Soviets. Tommy Slingsby.
In these conditions with boats feeling good.
Tom, it looks like a different boat today. Every maneuver is so clean and so smooth. How did you achieve that? What's changed?
Honestly, as I said in the interviews, we're not changing anything big. We're just trying to tidy up a few little things.
I think that's a fair comment, having been through these cups on teams or on the organizing committee since 1980, 44 years of this.
Well done, mate. But
It's just as everyone keeps asking me from 2013, what'd you guys do to come from behind 2013? And of course, I was with the team as rules advisor, but also heavily involved in the event side. But the truth is, it's incremental. It's little things. So putting Sir Ben on the boat, I think, gave the guys a boost. I think there was some adjustments to the foils in the back end of the boat on the rudders of the catamaran, the AC-75, AC-72s.
Can you run us through that, mate?
Yeah, it was clearly the wrong call. I didn't look well on the software. I had just a glimpse, and I thought that we were entering the zone overlapped, but yeah, definitely the wrong call. Very sorry, but yeah, you do mistakes. It's not the end of the world. It's important to look forward.
Okay, yeah, Francesco Bruni admitting that was a mistake. They were coming, he was steering. So he's on the port side of the boat, and they're coming into the mark, and this is Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli, and they forced inside, but there wasn't a penalty for that. They protested the Americans. The Americans took no, they actually, I think as Matthias Collins said, they went a little wider, but it was the hairpin turn. It was coming in on port and then jibing onto starboard inside of the Americans. And the Americans, of course, just came in and rounded up on starboard, kept their momentum. As they now have a green ball, and it's 4-1, still match point for the Italians. Yeah, Oracle learned to foil the cat upwind. Well, that was another issue.
Seems a while ago. This was the start. Classic Luna Rossa came off the line with just a little bit.
Yeah, LRPP likes that. We've seen this movie now, I think 3 times from Jimmy Spithill and Co. Up on the hip, drag racing out to the upwind left boundary, and then tacking ahead. In this case, they only gauged off, but they were a little quicker and seemed to gauge off and get to windward coming back. And then they made those two strange, watching the replays, that was, John Emmett, let's go to you. That was strange because you saw it the same as I. Here's the hairpin turn.
I mean, I think the situation here could have ended in tears, but yeah, I mean, these boats, fast-moving apparent wind boats, you don't try and do a hairpin turn like that. And I think AM was set up for the next upwind leg as it was. So yeah, I sort of have to disagree with Gordon. I thought AM won by sailing very skillfully.
Well, we'll give Gordon a reply, but before we go to Gordon, John, stick with me for a sec, because I think it was these, they're showing it on the replay now, these 2 upwind crosses. When the first one, it looked like Alinghi was going to cross ahead, and they just, again, that's Francesco Bruni, because they were on port tack, and Francesco called the dip, or maybe he's talking to Jimmy down on the starboard side. Francesco, the dipped, didn't take the risk when it looked like they could cross ahead. Then the next time it was even closer. As you said, it looked more like a 25 meter instead of a 70 meter delta. and they chose to try to cross ahead and got penalized. John, is that how you saw it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first was a cross, not necessarily an easy cross, but I think it was a cross. And it's not only looking at the meterage, so whether it's 45, 50, 55, but looking whether that's staying consistent, going up, going down. And I felt that it was pretty consistent. And that first cross was a relatively easy cross compared to the one that they tried to take, where you saw they were losing meters and meters. And I was expecting in that situation, when they were effectively on the wrong tack, not the lifting tack, for them to tack underneath and then go into high mode. But it's pretty easy to
exactly. If you're going to cross, where's my camera? You're going to try to cross, and instead of trying to cross, you tack ahead in the leeward. But I think we've seen that trying to get a so-called safe leeward and trying to attack in a close situation ahead into leeward doesn't work. In fact, even crossing and tacking, we've seen the boat astern just jet through to leeward. So I don't know. What's Gordon Smith think? You were taking issue with what Gordon said about that, I guess, hairpin turn.
I have a very simple rule when it comes to this. I always defer to John Emmett. Yeah, my only comment, I mean, was AM's win skillful? Of course they sailed skillfully. They stayed on the foils in very light wind. But I think what won that race was LRPP being unnecessarily greedy when they should have realized the wind was very light and they should have sailed to stay on the foils and stay in competition. And I think that was the big difference. I'm not saying that AM was sailing badly, but I would say that a changing point was LRPP being greedy when there were options.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. Graham Sweeney, you want to weigh in on this because we're showing a TV package about cycling from the Alinghi Red Bull Racing team. Graham, what do you think? Are we going to get any more racing in, first of all?
Looks like it's going light. I doubt that. But what I'm looking at here is you've got two aggressive teams which are have got all the points. They're at the top of their game. Are we seeing the aggressive boats who can be aggressive on the water because they have the extra ability? Are we seeing them failing because they're using that aggression on boats which are being more careful with the way they're going around the course?
Well, that's I think a fair question, fair comment. Bing Bong is saying, had LRPP gone upwind right, in other words, had they just crossed right through, Bing Bong is John Sangmeister's youngest son, William, who's nice to see you back on here, William, on a school day. You are going to school, right? 7:12 in the morning here. He probably got up early just to join us on here. Right, William? He's saying, had LRPP gone through the gate and stayed on port tack and gone upwind right, had they gone upwind right and then let American Magic have the upwind left where there was presumably more pressure, they were going to struggle to stay ahead or to be ahead. I mean, they were behind at that point already, so who knows? ITA got greedy, Alan Long is saying. Yeah, I know. It's a hard call. I mean, imagine you're on those boats trying to make that decision. We're still in a package here, a pre-recorded video about Alinghi Red Bull Racing, who I was wrong about them. I thought they would be much better early on because of just the toughness of Ernesto Bertarelli and all of his resources. And most of you poo-pooed that. Not all of you poo-pooed that, though, and they've turned out to barely make it into this semifinal phase. Stingray! Finally, a comment from Stingray up in Seattle saying ITA completely blew it. Okay, they say it's still on. They're promoing now. Ben Ainsley and co. with his co-helm Dylan Fletcher. Most decorated Olympian in our sport. Anna Mills, Shirley Robertson, superb Olympians in their own rights, also from the UK. UK have really taken on Olympic success in a big way You got coaches like John Emmett, who's on here, who've been superb Olympic coaches for other countries as well as for the UK, helping in their squad system. Although the Netherlands this time had the best Olympic medal count in sailing, at least. Alistair Murray, who refuses to go to bed even though it's 15 minutes after midnight in Sydney. Mr. President Alistair Murray, president of Australian Sailing, saying Jimmy sailed a terrible race in what he says is a faster boat. And the Aussies had a good Olympics again as well, Mr. President. Congratulations to you and your country. I would go on, venture to say that the Aussies, Graham Sweeney, what do you think? I would venture to say that the Aussies also are going to be good in both the youth and the women's America's Cup with their teams. They don't have a team in the big fight, but they've got good teams in the youth and the women's AC racing coming up here in the Americas, in the 40-footers.
I think it's really going to be a good thing to see. I think we're looking at the future of sailing. We're looking at the combined crews. We're looking at women getting into a prominent place in sailing, which is rightfully so. And I do think the Australians, they really do take these things seriously. So they are pretty much out there to be beaten. But let's not discredit anyone, because everyone's going to go out there and do their absolute best.
We got comments here. Rhode Island Rover is asking, aren't the Swiss out? Graham, tell us, what's the status of the Swiss after what we've seen today? What happened today that the Swiss are still in?
Well, I don't know. maybe it's for the TV. Who knows? I wouldn't like to speculate on the conspiracy.
Well, no, not the conspiracy, but what did we actually see happen? The Brits fell off their foils. Tell us what happened in that race earlier today.
Well, there's no wind. You're asking a bunch of really clever sailors to balance on a knife edge in no breeze. I mean, you'd have been better off sailing moths today than sailing those big boats. It's just it's anyone's race in this weather.
John Emmett, coming to you next. Matthias Collins, in the meantime, saying the Swiss know how to displace. Arnaud Saraphagas, coming from Light Air Lake Geneva, the Society Nautique Genève, where he's grown up. John, what happened in that race that the Swiss managed to win, a shortened race?
Well, I see it slightly differently to the other race, that the Brits managed to lose by not being in pressure when they did the tack and fell off. Again, it's really easy to sit here and go, crikey, they don't do very well in light winds. But even the top moths now, with the foil choice they have, won't be foiling until about 8 knots, which is why we lost the Moth Worlds when it was in Weymouth. So Dylan was the defending world champion in the Moth class, and he was absolutely gutted he couldn't do the Moth Worlds because he was doing America's stuff. And it was the Moth Worlds at home, as it were, and it didn't happen because they didn't have enough wind to race. But yeah, I think for these two teams racing next, it's a one drop off the foils loss if the other team doesn't. That's simple.
Gordon Smith, are we going to get another race in? Daniel Butler is saying one of the more touching moments in 2013 here was when Jimmy beat Dean O'Barker, who was driving for the Kiwis, after Jimmy gave his famous line, "Imagine if they lost it from here." Danielle Butler cheering for the Americans. Gordon, did we lose Gordon? Gordon's off the Zoom for the moment. We'll come back to him. Graham Sweeney, if this race happens, show us your pillow again, if you would, sir, because we know you're we're going to show us the fish pillow. You got to talk so that you got to say something so that it switches to you.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I've got you all in the Zoom, so that's one. I'm a one-armed paper hanger as it is, so that I don't have to switch from gallery view to back and forth to speaker view. But if you just say a word, then it'll pop the Zoom over to you. You think this one's going to go?
Yeah, I think it's going to go.
Hold, excuse me?
At 4:29 local. That's 4:29 local. About 10 minutes from now.
Okay, he said they just got, I thought he said confirmation they were calling it a day, but he's saying no. confirmation that it is, they're going to try in 10 minutes time. Back to you, Graham.
Well, that's a shame. I think they could have called it off, to be honest. I don't think it's our weather. I'd like to see another 2 or 3 knots of breeze, and let's see a proper bit of racing. This is just I could do this sort of sport at Vegas with the wheel. You know, I just go black or go red, isn't it?
I think this is a 50-50 deal out here.
Yeah, you hear, is that Peter Lester talking, saying it looks like a 50-50 deal out here?
Yeah.
It's certainly not top-end conditions.
I mean, they keep showing 6 and 7 knots.
Crossed, we get to see some racing.
There's Sir Ben looking up the track, trying to suss out what's going on.
So there's been Ainsley.
Gordon Smith, do you think they'll get this one off? And if so, who will win?
Technological competition. And
I think it's on days like this that the race officer earns his money and he says, why don't we have the afternoon off?
No accident. Takes hard work, perseverance.
Now Alistair Murray is saying, you can wish him good night, Gordon, because Mr. President Alistair Murray is saying he is going to bed. He said he can't take the excitement anymore. He didn't say that. I put words in his mouth. As they go to a package here about the British team and the christening by Sir James's, Jim Ratcliffe's daughters of the Royal Yacht Squadron's representative yacht, Rita, Britannia.
Was 87.
Ben talking about 87 in Frio.
That was one of the
So there's some pictures. That'll make Ed Worley happy. He's not even on the Zoom at the moment. Ed Worley's taking a pause for the cause. As we're watching this package about, honest to God, monohull 12-meter racing 87 Perth WA. Dennis Conner won 4-0. There's Dennis, Tom Whidden.
As an optimist sailor, growing up in Cornwall, but I remember being, incredibly impressed by.
Tom, I don't know if we're having a bit of a pause where you want to hear a little bit more about sailing and whales and things.
Please.
Well, where John was just racing in North Wales, a town called Pwllheli, and it's it's spelt almost without any vowels. It's on the far northwest tip of Wales, often called the Sow's Ear. And my holiday home was a little bit, as a youth, was a little bit further, even further west, a place called Abersoch. And it's fantastic sailing water. It really is wonderful. But the language they speak in Welsh is a form of Gaelic. In Scotland, they speak Gaelic, which they speak another form of in Ireland. But in southwest England, in Cornwall, the old language there is also a mixture between Gaelic and Breton. And Breton is of the same language root as they speak in Wales. So it's kind of that coastline or that strip of land has these two variants of very old languages.
Is Breton, is that French?
It's Breton. It's Frenchish. Call it Frenchish, but it's a language of its own. And in fact, I spent quite a lot of the year before last revisiting my French homework, and we went on holiday in France, and went straight to Brittany, and I couldn't speak a word.
Well, we're watching a package now from, well, it's about Ineos Britannia, and there's Sir Ben, and he had a hug there. I guess that was from Auckland. As we're watching here to see if they will get another race off. It's 7:23 here in San Francisco. It's 4:23 in the afternoon in Barcelona, almost 4:24. So they're into their 2.5 hours almost TV window. Will they carry on and go for another half an hour and try to get this race off? Somehow I rather doubt it, as it's looking still quite light. Buster Pike, lots more visibility.
Come back, Tom.
Of the okay, we'll come to you in a sec. Thank you, Ed Worley. Yarvahe saying, I'm old enough to remember Breton bonnets on old ladies in St. Bart's. Breton bonnets, old ladies in St. Bart's. Buster Pike, lots more visibility of the hydrogen fuel cell powered vessels today. Yes, the teams, each of them had to buy one of those for $4 million. Bloody. Excuse me, Claire Harrington. Bloody hell. They're showing a clock running. They're showing 6.6 knots and change. We're going to try to get this off. I'm a bit surprised because we keep seeing these numbers on here that seem to be something, wishful thinking almost, rather than what is average on the track. Well, they say they're taking these numbers right off of those buoys. There are anemometers on the ends of the start line and the ends of the gate. Doesn't look very windy, does it? Ed Worley, who's going to win this race?
I would have to say Ineos is going to win, just from the mojo they have and what they're doing. I would like to see a lot closer races. Hope Alinghi can make it closer, but I think Ineos just has they look very polished and very good.
Well, Fog Machine, a.k.a. Lance Burke, is just joining us. He, having won as a crew aboard our past Commodore's classic yacht here in the Rolex Big Boat Series, and he probably had quite a party last night, so no surprise he's getting up a little later this morning, 7:25 here in San Francisco, which is still not exactly late. But Lance, congratulations to you and to Commodore Bo Froelich on your classic yacht, the big schooner Mayan, M-A-Y-A-N. Ed, do you know who used to own the schooner Mayan, M-A-Y-A-N, of fame, rock and roll fame?
John Lennon.
No.
No, it wasn't John Lennon. Who was it? It was
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young fame.
Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Crosby. So, Fog Machine, here's what you've missed. You've missed wins by the teams that had to win. In the first race today, we saw the Swiss win when the Brits fell off their foils and stayed off their foils, and the Swiss won just before the time limit, the 45-minute time limit ran out. The Brits weren't even on that final leg when the Swiss, also off their foils, crossed in displacement mode across the shortened course to 5 legs upwind, notching a win, the first. So they're 4-1 now, their first win in the semis. And then we saw in the second match, similar but different, we saw a very close match between the Italians and the Americans, back and forth lead changes several times, and then at the bottom gate, what would be the last time at the bottom gate, Jimmy Spithill was coming in on port tack, on port tack, and the Americans coming in on starboard tack, and it looked like more pressure on the upwind right, so Jimmy aggressively tried to do a hairpin turn inside of the Americans, and protested the Americans for not giving enough room, but protest was dismissed by the umpires, and they fell off their foils in the process. That is, the Italians are doing the hairpin turn. The Americans sped ahead over to the upwind left, tacked, and went on to win the race by heaps because the Italians never got. Did they get back on their foils now? I don't remember. So very marginal wins. Jamie Hutchison is saying, yep, Jamie, speaking of marginal, I think I still haven't fired up your coffee that you kindly sent us, the Death Wish coffee. Philip Laffin wishing Dennis Conner, DC, a happy birthday today, who is what, 80-something? Graham Clark, come on, Tom, you'd have to admit racing with American Magic and Luna Rossa have been exciting. Yes, Gordon Smith has said that, and I agree. It has been exciting, or lead changes. Graham Clark, I'm not wild about racing where one boat falls off their foils and the other boat doesn't. LRPP did not get back on their foils, Ed Worley is reminding us. Another video package here of moth sailing.
The 49 had quite a natural progression of 49 sailors then sailing the moth and winning world championship.
Okay. Is he the current world moth world champion, Dylan Fletcher? Is that who that is? I think he's the current world champion. He is the, yeah, look at these guys who he's sailed 49ers against. He sailed Moths again. Yes, the current Moth world champion, and he is the B-helm for Ineos Britannia. Somehow, guys and gals, I don't think this is going to happen. They got to fill the time. I don't blame them for that. And they have produced some nice packages. Fog Machine saying they were talking about we said that before you got on, Lance Burke, a.k.a. Fog Machine, about J.K., John Kostecki's propensity for doing the hairpin turns in the downwind gate by Alcatraz Island here in 2013. And bravo Zulu to John, by the way, who with Austin Sperry has won the Star Worlds down in San Diego this past week. And he'd raced in the Star Worlds apparently, but had never won it. And he's 60-something, right? Gordon Smith, I wouldn't show my package so widely. Okay, keep it clean, Gordon. Julie would give you a finger wag from upstairs in the Commodore's suite. I got smiles out of the gang here, the Zoomers. John Emmett, what are you drinking? Is that some kind of a health drink? Show us again, if you would, please, and tell us what concoction that is.
I mean, Tom, this is just tea. I'm British.
Tea?
I just drink everything by the pints: tea, coffee, water, wine. I've only got pint glasses, so vodka.
Is that iced tea in a pint glass?
No, Tom, it's mid-September in the UK. That's definitely hot tea.
Do you ever drink iced tea? As a Brit, do you ever drink? I mean, it's a sacrilege, isn't it?
Short answer, no. I mean, I may have on occasion, but generally speaking, no. And there's only approximately 3 days in the summer you can drink iced coffees, so it's not really worth bothering about.
Yeah, Gordon Smith, exclamation, triple, quadruple, exclamation points. Iced what? Well, you know, the Texans, it reminds me, you Brit, sometime in a private moment, I'll tell you the joke about the Texan who went to London and was told by the Brit, his host, that, you know, we drink 3 types of tea here. And the joke, Julia's heard the joke goes downhill from there. So I won't tell it today. It gets pretty foul. They drink 3 types of tea in Texas, too. And I'll tell you that joke sometime. Prosecco, it is not. It's hot tea in a pint cup. And I drink iced coffee pretty much year-round. The young Gen Zer that I am, not. I like iced coffee rather than hot coffee. But the thing I like about it is that it's convenient to...
Got to win, and the Americans got to win. So we are alive in the Louis Vuitton Cup semifinals.
Okay, they haven't called it off yet, but I like iced coffee because I can make a pot, whether with Jamie Hutchison's seriously strong Death Wish coffee or something less strong, put the pot in the fridge, put some ice in the thing to dilute what is otherwise a pretty strong cup of brewed coffee, pour it in a little milk, maybe a shot of sugar-free vanilla, and away you go. Iced coffee for me. One in the morning, and that's about it. I thought Texas tea was oil, Ed Worley is saying. Yeah, well, that is from, what was the name of that? The Beverly Hillbillies television show here in the States. When the opening theme song of that, the line, who is that? Scruggs and what? Earl Scruggs? Who was the 2 banjo players that sang that? Wrote that? Texas tea was oil. Oil, man, you got to go to Beverly Hills, the Beverly Hillbillies, who discovered oil on their property and where? Kentucky, Tennessee? Was that ever even specified? Now, do you know who played Grandpa Clampett in that movie? Earl Scruggs and Flats, Rick Bannerow, what were their names? Yeah, 1 cup of Death Wish coffee is all you need, Jamie Hutchison's saying. Well, I just have 1 big cup of this. I'll try yours, Jamie. I'm saving it for other times. Flat and Scruggs. What was Flat's first name? The banjo players. The Beverly, well, we're reaching now. Lester Flat. Thank you very much, Richard Lawton. Maura Stevens agreeing that a homemade iced tea made from cooled hot tea with mint and lemon, perfection. Maura's up in Nova Scotia, where they don't have that many hot days, hot summer days. Buddy Ebsen and Irene Ryan. Mark Holland, yes. Buddy Ebsen played Grandpa Clampett, and what made, to those of us on here, made Buddy Ebsen significant, if not famous? Tea Illustrated, John Emmett is saying. Buddy Ebsen was from Newport Beach, California. He latterly, after he was a famously good actor and famously well-paid actor, was living in Newport Beach, and he had a big catamaran. He was a sailor. Buddy Ebsen, who played Grandpa Clampett on that show. And the name of his catamaran was something to do with the South Pacific. And it's still there in the harbor, right? Anchored on a mooring buoy, not too far off of Balboa Yacht Club, if I remember well. They just called it. Okay, thank you, Justin Rosenberg. No, it's not Teabagging Illustrated, Graham Sweeney.
People that were
Brad Butterworth
motivated to win the America's Cup.
Buddy Ebsen was Jed Clampett, yeah, Grandpa Clampett.
From all over the world. And,
okay, well, they have called it according to, did they say that on the tube? Yeah, and Buddy Ebsen was a famously good sailor. In fact, if Bruce Nelson's still on here watching, he raced the Transpac in a catamaran, Trey Ritter is saying. Yeah, Buddy Ebsen hosted a party at his house in Newport Beach in 1972 when Bruce Nelson and I were sailing there in a collegiate sloop championships. I was crewing for Bruce. First ever collegiate sloop championships hosted by Newport Harbor Yacht Club. And Buddy Ebsen threw a party. We all went over to his house. Now, it wasn't Kon-Tiki. That wasn't the name of his boat. I don't think Richard, not latterly, the big catamaran was something else. But it was South Pacific oriented, I think, was the name of the name from my aging memory. Okay, well, it sounds like both of the underdogs live another day. SUI 100, the winner in 2007, for Alinghi, for the Swiss. Nice interview with Brad, who is still living, I think, part-time in Switzerland. The voice of Peter Montgomery. Okay, gang, it's 7:37 here. I think we're going to wrap this one up because it looks like they've called it off. Polynesian Concept. Thank you, Tom Fishback, who lives down in Newport Beach. Polynesian Concept. Well done, Tom. That's the name of that boat that he owned. And it was a pleasure meeting. He was just a humble, really nice guy. Had us all over, knew a lot about what we were doing. Have they just said no racing tomorrow, John Emmett? We will do our normal. I'm just getting to that slide. I think, have we confirmed no racing tomorrow? It's a reserve day. But let me stay on the tube for a minute longer here and see what they're saying. They're still running this package now, talking about the 2010 Cup. When the boat behind me, this is a Jim DeWitt painting, the late great Jim DeWitt painting of the Trimaran. America's once again, yes, in 2010, after Ernesto signed up a lame Challenger record, which did not exist, CNEV. That was a fake yacht club. Club Náutico Español de Vela. Not on the feed yet. Clock stopped on the race director's boat. Okay, so we believe they've called it off. Mark Holland says still nothing on the media feed. I don't know if they're going to race tomorrow or not. Here's the deal. To answer your question, John, because John Emmett will be thinking about putting one of his coaching corner contributions together, his regular video contributions to our regular Tuesday and Friday shows. if we're racing tomorrow morning, if we have a watch party, I'm not going to put a show together for tomorrow afternoon. It's too much work. I don't have the time. I'll be a bit, you know, I'm a bit lame brain dead after doing 2.5, 3 hours of this madness. So, yeah, John, we got one in the can already from John. We may end up doing 2 or 3 on Friday or putting them on our Sailing Illustrated Facebook channel in the meantime. So I don't know the answer. Let's wait and see what we get off the official, unless somebody else has seen something. If they're racing tomorrow, we'll do a 5 a.m., our normal time here for a watch party, and no regular 1300 Sailing Illustrated show. If we have a reserve or a lay day tomorrow, I should say, if we do not have racing tomorrow in the America's Cup, I'll do a regular 1300 show. Julia will be down here joining us for that as usual. And then presumably doing an 0500 show here on Wednesday morning. And of course, they could race tomorrow. We could still be doing a Wednesday morning show. What are they saying? John Rogers, thanks for your kind comment.
Historical city of Barcelona, the cathedral before that, Sagrada Familia, and man, it has been.
John Rogers just saying how much he likes all the sharing of information on here and hoping that helps in some way to make our sport more successful.
Semi-finals. We're still waiting for a start on the third race of the day between Ineos.
They haven't called it. They're still waiting for a start of a third race today between Ineos and the Swiss, so they have not called it. You croutons who gave us fake news here. Yeah, AC.com does. It's clearly a reserve day, Justin, or Stingray rather. And there will likely, Stingray thinks up in Seattle. Thanks, Rick Reynolds, for joining us. We do a regular show on Tuesdays and Fridays at 1300. Those of you who are regular FOSI, or Friends of Sailing Illustrated, as we call it, Tuesday and Fridays at 1300 Pacific. We've been doing this for almost 8 years now, since the last Cup here the Cup in Bermuda was when we started these shows up in 2017. So join us, if you would, for 1300 Pacific, most Tuesdays and Fridays. And then we've been doing these watch parties with the Zoomers. So we'll have to see what happens tomorrow. We're planning to do our regular show unless there's a watch party. If there's a watch party tomorrow morning at 0500, it just puts too much pressure here in Studio B to get things going and rolling. They're still showing 8:42 on the clock counting down on the yacht. I think we've got
the future.
Actually, it was
go
so
back
good
to
to
the
see
audio.
the 2010 Cup. I mean, that is.
I think the TV would love, and the race committee, they'd love to give everybody a day off tomorrow. They'd love to get this. Yeah, Mark, I see that. Thank you. And they'd love to get this done and dusted. That is the semifinals, so that everybody's got some time off going forward. But in these conditions, they're not going to get any racing off today. Don Riley thinks tomorrow is just the youth America's Cup, no adult racing. Forecast is better tomorrow. Claire Harrington and others been telling us. I don't know if Mark Michelson's on here, or maybe now that we've got Fog Machine. Lance Burke, get on and check the weather for us, if you would, please, in Barcelona tomorrow. Don Riley thinking we will not have racing tomorrow in the Senior America's Cup. They're going to play another package. Oh, they're hanging on here. They're trying to get this going. This is the race earlier today.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, John, let's go to you.
Yeah, they're saying they're aiming for a start in 10 minutes. I mean, whether that happens or not is anyone's guess, but that's what just flashed up on YouTube. So 55.
What do you think, John's going to happen?
No, not the way it looks at the moment, but I'm quite happy to hang around for another 10 minutes and see. And, you know, there's plenty more poo sticks in the river.
Those of you who missed the poo stick discussion, Winnie the Pooh earlier today, that was perhaps the most interesting. Well, the race, certainly the racing's been interesting. Whether it's been, inspiring or not, it's a whole another issue. As we are going to wait, I guess, another 10 minutes or so. They're going to wait till the top of the hour, I suspect, to see if they can get something going here, John. The poo stick, never say never. I'm going to have to. I remember reading Winnie the Pooh to Meg, to our now 32-year-old daughter, but I don't remember the poo stick. That happened near your family farm, eh? The 100-acre wood, you call that?
Yeah, Pooh Bridge is less than 9 miles from the family farm.
Okay, tell us, John. Tell us truthfully. Did you ever go over to the Pooh Bridge and drop a poo stick into whatever the body of water? What's the body of water?
Yeah, I've done that. It's a little river. I used to play poo sticks on the family farm.
How old were you?
Crikey, from very early memories. I remember when the stubble in the farm was higher than my little welly boots. So I used to go around the farm, walking around the farm in my little welly boots with my spade and whatnot, and I used to get stubble rash. So yeah, preschool.
You're getting a smile out of Gordon Smith. Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, poo sticks is a thing that for those visiting the UK, there's a beautiful town in the Cotswolds called Bolton-on-the-Water, and that has a stream running right down the high street with a number of small bridges, and it is the best place to play poo sticks. It's fantastic.
You guys. Graham Sweeney, you got to weigh in on the poo stick discussion here.
Well, I was brought up on the Winnie the Pooh books and the Wurzels and all these other things that was going on, and my brother, I think, has one of the original Shepherd paintings of Winnie the Pooh. It's out of the book, but yeah, I know it's I think it's quite a British thing. I think Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh, it's quite a British thing. Couldn't do it here because we've got no trees, so there's no sticks to throw. But
here meaning in Scotland.
Yeah, on Shetland, we're an island free of trees, so you'd have to walk a long way to try and find the stick. You might be better off with a dried sheep pearl or something like that in the burn. But no, you're not going to get that played here.
Ed Worley, you're an American. Did you ever play poo sticks growing up or otherwise?
No. but we did make little model sailboats and sail them in the drainage canals. Yeah.
Well, I think we made little paper, not mache, just out of paper and maybe a toothpick or something. I don't remember when we were doing this, and tried to blow them down some kind of a pan of water that my mother had in the kitchen on a rainy day thing in Michigan. I don't remember. Dawn Riley, are you still on here? Give us a comment if you ever played poo sticks in Michigan. In my neighborhood, we had to outrun the nightsticks. Mark Holland must have been out creating trouble and outrunning the cops. Gang, this is not looking good. Andrew Watson, need to go to Busta House for some sticks, Graham. Busta House. Sean Hogan, it's late in Australia. You're in hospital. We're all sending you best wishes, wishing you a quick recovery and getting through the tough times you're going with your health. You're a big mate of Alistair Murray's and a lot of Australian sailors we know. So this looks bloody awful. This just looks. And Peter Lester, I hear in my little earbud saying, it's getting lighter. Lighter, mate. We're not.
I say, Tom.
Gordon?
While we're on English children's literature, there's one author called Arthur Ransom, whose many, if not most, of his books involved sailing, whether sailing on the Lake District or taking a boat around the Broads, or I believe he had one adventure that took place out in China, and actually very inspiring and very. He was into navigating and, how you tack the boat, and it was very involved, and they produced films on it, and it was amazingly popular from the 1920s into the 70s. And they made a film of it, I think, in the early 80s. It's really a fantastic author and wonderful book.
Hey, you know what? John Emmett, Gordon Smith, Graham Sweeney, you all being Brits, and we got a lot of other Brits on here. Maybe we have finally broken the code. Maybe we now know why your country is a leading yacht racing. You can't win the America's Cup because these poo sticks apparently are not very closely, are not a design competition, or are they? But apparently, maybe we now understand why your country is so good in the Olympics of late. It's the poo sticks. Okay, we are looking at the weather. Fog machine saying looks like rain on Wednesday.
But about how you
apparently still haven't called it off.
How you use your sail plans.
So I don't know about Wednesday. It's starting to sound like no racing tomorrow. But here's Richard Gladwell. When I was a kid, we played poo stick. He's in New Zealand. Whenever we crossed over a bridge, and we still do. Okay.
Hey, Tom.
Yes, sir.
I have my poo stick ready.
Say again, Graham. You got your, let's see your poo stick. Graham,
I have my poo stick ready.
Let's take you back to the second race of the day today.
I think it'll be a quick one.
Wow. Well, I don't know. I mean, that may be too. You need something that's going to be like a dandelion. What do you call the white seed of a dandelion, right? That's going to blow and maybe even, of course, depends which direction the wind is blowing. Okay, guys, let me get back to finding out what's going on here. I think we've. Oh, now they're doing a replay today from the American Magic and Luna Rossa race. This is how it started out. Those of you like Fog Machine just joining us, the Italians, we've seen this start. And they head over to the upwind left. And they come out with the lead. That is the Italians. In fact, they crossed ahead. They crossed ahead and come out ahead and to windward of the Americans. And there were some lead changes. This was the best race. This was a best race today, certainly, but it's been one of the best races of this whole series.
Hey, Tom. They just said 57 is likely to be the last possible.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So 5 minutes from now.
Yeah, so didn't say shall, said may, but you can interpret that as you wish.
Okay, well, here was a lead at the bottom gate by the Italians. No, that's the top gate. That's gate one. They're taking us through this entire race.
Both teams pumping the foils a lot further under the boat in these light air conditions, and really critical these next jibes from both teams. Green, the right away.
Well, this is fun to watch. John Emmett, give us some commentary going through this replay.
I better make sure I'm watching the same thing as you. But I think the key thing with really fast boats is you're not thinking just ahead, not one tack ahead. You're thinking 2 or 3 tacks ahead. So they were pretty close, but the key bit was when we get to the bottom mark. At the moment, when we went upwind, I just think Italy probably got their risk reward the wrong way round in terms of when they could cross and when they couldn't cross. But it's the team who's thinking, 2 tacks ahead or 3 jibes ahead who's going to end up, because it's not where you are now, it's where you are in 2 minutes. So I think Italy made very hard work of it. On the upwind, they probably could have stamped their authority on it, but the key bit was the downwind. And to me, it was probably obvious halfway down the run that you wanted to be going around that left-hand gate looking upwind. Because here at the top, it was pretty close still, I guess.
Well, this is not the crucial gate. This is not the gate where the big hairpin turn. That's the next gate after this, or the next downwind gate after this. But this is the gate 3, and then they go uphill, and it was a good close match again up leg 4. How many lead changes on this leg? Were there any, or was it just really close?
You needed to be thinking ahead. I mean, we have it, you know, in Olympic sailing, you need to know where you're going to go, exactly where you're going to go on the next leg of the course. So, you know, 6 boat lengths before the windward mark in a slow water pusher at 5 knots, you know whether you're going left or right down the run, because that decision will get made for you if you don't make the decision yourself. And, you know, this situation here, you know, the US lined themselves up for that gate. And it almost felt like Italy got tricked into trying to get in there. And in fact, they would have still very much been in the race if they had just split, because I think most people would agree the Italian boat had the speed advantage.
Okay, here it is. Talk us through it.
Where you've got an Italian boat trying to do approximately a 270-degree turn, and that just doesn't work very well. I mean, even if they'd done a better turn, that 10-knot difference between the boats meant the USA was just going to sail around them to the boundary and then tack. And I said that bottom left looked much better. And I just think in marginal foiling conditions, it was just too big a risk to take. But I'm happy. It means we get one more race to watch. I'll be that on Wednesday.
Stingray is saying if you look deep into the stats, American Magic is as fast as Luna Rossa, both upwind and down. Well, at least today, Stingray, in this light air flat water, I think you would agree, as we go back to this finish, and the Americans getting across the finish line on the foils and winning by 3 kilometers, 3,200 meters, as the Italians really never got foil-borne again. And they live, sounds like, looks like another day, because I don't think we're going to see any more racing. Let's see what they're saying.
To watch day 3 of the Louis Vuitton Cup semi-finals. We said right at the start of the day, which was around 2 o'clock, we were looking for a Miracle Monday. Well, they are small miracles, to say at least. Now,
well, Miracle Monday.
Still waiting for a start.
Still waiting for a start. Excuse me.
I suppose the one thing, Glenn and Shirley, that we were looking for.
Yeah, that hairpin turn, as I call it, which was made famous by John Kostecki in Oracle Team USA here in 2013. Didn't work very well then, and it didn't work very well today. They're still showing they're trying to get this off. We're almost 3 hours into this watch party. We started at 0500 here in San Francisco, almost 8 a.m. now. In Barcelona, it's almost 5 p.m., they having started at 2, trying to get racing going, or 10 minutes after 2. And Cedric Lorch says they still, on his YouTube, they still have this feed on. Others are saying, no, they went to the press conference on YouTube that they had earlier today for the Youth America's Cup. This isn't going to go. Who are they? Boy, Ian Murray seems really desperate to get this going. He must not be too confident in the weather forecast going forward. So it sounds like to me, this is again guessing, but it sounds like tomorrow they're going to run the youth, and then we'll get back to senior to this America's Cup on Wednesday, which means we will have our regular 1300 show tomorrow.
Look, I think Tom's, done a really
still showing it. Goodison and Slingsby had 70 days sailing together on the AC 75 in all conditions. Slingsby with Calabrese have had just 5 days together on the AC 75 before this series, all in the light. Good stat there from Richard Gladwell, the New Zealand editor, our esteemed Fozy, longtime friend, and the editor of sail-world.com. Well, Alinghi are foiling. Oh, no, they're being towed. There's a tow line. There's their tow boat. You can see the tow line again there. Showing 9:33 to a delayed 5 more minutes, Mark Holland says.
Done today, and that's putting a lot of pressure on probably the shore teams and what's going on in their head. I mean, surely if you're a skipper of one of these,
and now this guy, Steve McIver, the lead, what's he saying?
Dusted if you're in front.
If you're in front, but if you're behind, you want to just keep chipping away, taking races off.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody on the team, they don't care if they're in the shore team or the sailing team. They're all hoping to keep this thing alive. Well, we've seen more bizarre days in the America's Cup in at least the 44 years I've been involved. But this is right up there.
In the meantime, the team have been talking about close racing. Well, we got
this is right up there.
Race yesterday. It was between American Magic and Luna Rossa.
Ed Worley, you going to get another race in here? You're talking about the race committee back in the New York Yacht Club days. Are we going to get another race or not,
No.
Ed? You think this is done?
I think so, and I think it's good for American Magic that it is done. I think they have time to look at what they did, and they're really happy with what's going on.
Yeah, go in and regather, regroup. Yeah, exactly. This is a replay again. What are you showing on YouTube, Ed? Are you still showing this world feed?
They're showing. Oh no, they're showing a replay of race 4.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. That's what the world feed is showing here.
Yes.
Too on ESPN Plus, which again, this is a watch party. If any of you have joined us and haven't been watching in previous days, we've been doing this now for 3 preliminary races, and then we had how many race days of the rounds robin? I can't remember. It was 8 or 9. That was 12 days, and now we've done it for 3 days here. So I guess 15 days that we've been doing this. Getting up at dark 30 to go live at 0500. Much more wind tomorrow for the Youth Cup, Alex Hayworth says. They're trying to tow onto the foil. Heidi Purcell's out on the water. Great insight, Heidi. She's saying they're trying to try to tow onto the foils, but no luck. Lovely day on the water. Life-Saving World Championships 2024. Claire Harrington reminding us that the name of the race committee boat was Black Knight. That was a boat they chartered, that big, beautiful wooden boat that the New York Yacht Club Race Committee uses. It's still around. It is still around. Ed Worley, this isn't going to go. We're now 3 hours and 1 minute, 3 hours 2 minutes into this TV broadcast window today, and the unilaterals in the various countries that are carrying this are not going to be amused. Black Knight. What a cool boat. And for extra credit, who was the principal race officer in 1983 aboard Black Knight when New York Yacht Club lost the Cup? Ed, who was that?
I don't know. I was in college. I was going to school as an aerospace engineering major then, so I don't know. I wish I could have been there, but I was in Southern California in college.
It was Dyer Jones. He was the race committee chairman in those days. W.H. Dyer Jones, who then became Commodore in New York Yacht Club subsequently. Claire Harrington, Vice Commodore Harrington, saying last she knew, she, meaning now it wasn't Mossbacher. Mossbacher was Commodore then, or he was Commodore the next year, I guess. Bob Stone was Commodore in '83 when we lost. Black Knight is in the Med, Claire Harrington thinks. Bus Mossbacher, who won the Cup twice in the 60s. His famous comment, he would ask the rest of the team, he and the afterguard commiserating in the back about something in the back of the boat in the 12-meter. And he said, what was his comment? He said, any comments, any thoughts? Only one from any of the people forward in the boat. Marcos Weinstein saying Dyer Jones, a senior serious badass. Oh, he was a good guy. He is a good guy. Dyer, dear friend. We stayed in Dyer's and Linda's home part of the time that Leslie and I were in Perth, WA, when he was down there as the official delegate from New York Yacht Club to the team, America 2. They're still running, and they're still trying to get something. They haven't called it yet. Haven't called it yet. We've lost Gordon Smith, but Graham Sweeney, you're still hanging in here. Is your team going, if they race, assuming they don't race tomorrow, they race on Wednesday, given the conditions, is your team, Graham, going to win on Wednesday and close it up at 5-1?
Sometimes, Tom, it takes 2 whacks of a poo stick to put a fish out of its misery. And I think that's what we're waiting for. We just need one more go to put this thing to bed. I mean, it's dragging out the agony, let's be honest.
Yeah, I don't think there's much question in this one, is there, of who's going to win. I think Ineos sooner or later is going to win this semifinal, of which they're now up 4-1 over the Swiss. Who is this Crouton? Life-Saving World Championships. Obviously, we're getting a big following on here. I'm going to go block him. Block user on Facebook. Sorry, Mr. Life-Saving World Championship. I don't know who you are. FGHJKL. Cutoff time is 17:30 local now, is what Stingray is saying. That's another 25 minutes. Ian Murray is desperate to get something going here. I may have to go get a coffee. I may have to take a pause for the cause here. You guys keeping me on the air here for 3.5 hours without a chance to go take a pee. That is not correct. The dedication of Sailing Illustrated and our watch party staff. You know, we got over there in the behind the doors, behind where Julia's desk is. We show the big studio. Julia obviously not here. She's up in her Commodore's suite here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. This is a building in the marina. Beautiful building, 100 years old, almost. It's 98 years old, and she lives upstairs in the Commodore's suite, normally here at her desk. She owns the building and kindly lets me have the second floor apartment where we have our studio. And you're seeing now the bigger picture view that we normally use from camera 2 on our regular shows, which run Tuesdays, and I'll show the cover slide, Tuesdays and Fridays at 1300. Looking like that's what we're going to do tomorrow, doing that show. I'll close the shot back up so we can get the zoom in from camera 2 to watching the TV for the watch party.
Hi, Tom.
Gordon Smith in Denmark, outside Copenhagen.
I think today's racing has thrown up a very interesting contrast between these two pairs. Although we knew AM was very competitive about LRPP, when we look to the next set of pairings, actually, as Graham said, I think Ineos should be looking to dispatch Alinghi as painlessly as possible. But in the case of LRPP and AM, there's a real match on here. This is very, very undecided, and it wouldn't take very much to go either way. I know the margin is very narrow, but I think the only thing that's really been highlighted today is that the differences are remarkably small. And that's not the case between Ineos and Alinghi, I believe. We'll wait and see. But I think that's the contrast to me out of today's sport, was where everybody is positioned.
John Emmett, you're talking about the mast rake here, back and forth in the comments with various people. And it looks like American Magic is more upright with their rig, not as raked aft as some of the other teams. What's your thinking there?
Well, it's actually raked forward.
Is it actually forward of plumb, you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's hard to tell because of the exact angle of the hull, but the top of the mast is further forward than the bottom of the mast. It's very profound. I mean, even in the Ilkas, I've been doing a lot of testing with lower mast bend, and it's amazing what a difference of 30 grams will make on a short section. So to see them look so different, I mean, one of the designers said it, it's really strange how they all optimize their boats. And I think all the designers expected the boats to be very, very similar. And I think there's probably more differences than people would expect. But yeah, if you look at one of those shots where you've got them both in both in shot, you'll see the angle of the mast is really significantly different. And if most boats are racing with an upright mast and one boat is racing with a forward mast, you've got to pose the question why.
Yeah, I'm just hearing, John. Yeah, indeed. And I was trying to see if in this replay of this race between the Americans and the Italians, if we would see another side-by-side shot. Yeah, they can alter the rake. I mean, there's a lot to altering the rake. You got to change. Remember, we got these deck sweeping sails, main and jib, and you may, I don't know if they have to shorten the leeches if they rake the mast further aft, or raise the tack. You know, there's work to be done. It's not a simple matter of like on a dinghy of you know, dropping the mast back an inch or so. Heidi Purcell out on the water says that they've called it. No surprise. And we'll see if anybody else can confirm that. She said that 4 minutes ago. She's out on the water, so maybe this TV package continues while they have in fact called it. I don't know if they'll go to the bottom of the hour to 8:10 here to 5:30, 5:10, 5:11. We'll see if they've already called it. Well, John, thank you for that. Maybe we'll do a little investigation into mast rake between now and our next watch party, which it's sounding like will be Wednesday, not tomorrow, Tuesday. In which case, we will do our regular show tomorrow at 1300.
Hopefully capitalize on a little mistake, but they're still sailing really well, those guys in Luna Rossa, so it's a tough one.
That's what it's feeling like at the moment. What's it feeling like to you, Graham Sweeney?
Well, I just wish the agony would be over. I'm sitting here watching this and thinking, I can't see another rerun. Please don't give me another one.
Well, we can sign on. The minute that we know that there's no racing, we'll wrap this up and get off the air here. We all need to get on with our day-to-day lives, I'm sure. And the TV may have to fill to the bottom of the hour to keep their unilaterals happy, people to whom they are sending this around the world. And it's dozens of different outlets. So we'll see.
Hey, Tom.
But I don't want to leave Ed Worley until we know it's for sure done and dusted for today. What are you thinking, Ed?
I'm always curious, why aren't they showing clips of historic America's Cup races?
Yeah, I saw that in your questions.
Yeah.
I think the answer is they have shown some, and they've, you know, it looks like they're starting to run out of their current packages, and they did show some today. So to your point, which is a good one, but I also think they need to show packages about the current sail. They need to make the sailors more famous. They need to focus on not only the helms, the skippers, but everybody on the team. And I'd like to see more packages about the shoreside operations. As Michael,
Ineos is doing a very good job with their after race shows.
Yeah, indeed. Don Lunabos, thank you for your comments. Michael Frank is wishing happy birthday to DC. Apparently today is Dennis's birthday. I haven't looked at my calendar. There's a nice link from Richard Gladwell. I commend it to you. I haven't looked at it myself, but if Richard's putting it up, I'm sure it's a good, informative link about the trade-off between new foils, and maybe explains why the boats that are good in the breeze are not so good in the light. Thank you, Richard, for that. Jim Beam, we all agree it'd be nice if the video contained more stats. We agree. I think we all say that. Marcos, thank you for your comment. I mean, this is not that big a deal for me. I am a bit of a one-armed paper hanger, but I'm enjoying this, and I'm enjoying being with all of you. As I said earlier today, it would not be any fun. I'd be up watching this like all of you probably would be, and it's a lot more fun to be here in your company. So thank you very much to the Zoomers and to the commentors as this replay continues. If they're really going to go another 15 minutes before calling this off, 16 minutes now, I doubt that. They're going to call this off because they got to get this going, and probably with only 16 minutes to go, they can't really get a race in. But maybe not. Maybe Ian Murray is figuring that he's under so much pressure to get a race in because of the schedule going forward. I mean, we start the finals of this Louis Vuitton Cup start on Thursday, the 26th of September. Today is, what, the 16th? So that's in 10 days. You got to give the team some breaks, a break. The race committee a break. The volunteers who are staffing the village and staffing a lot of stuff in the America's Cup and the bigger America's Cup setup there. Marcos, who is there, Marcos Weinstein, is saying it's a beautiful day. People are hanging out. Michael Frank says that American Magic have now put out on their feed that they're done for the day. So absolutely no surprise. As they're still showing a replay from yesterday. Rhode Island Rover, thank you for joining us. Yeah, we've got a smart bunch of Fozy on here, whether they're the Zoomers or all of you commentors. Mark Holland saying he says he's hearing that racing will resume now on Wednesday, so no watch party tomorrow morning. Come on, guys. Bye-bye, Matthias Collins. Thank you for sticking with us. Matthias normally down in South America.
Both teams now well into for cavitation.
Great group on here from Bulgaria to the east of us to Australia and New Zealand to the west of us.
Show those skinny little foils.
Alan Long is going with Glad. Yeah, AM just posted after an amazing win in race one today. We are done for the day. Not enough win to complete the second race. Well, there's not enough win to complete the first race here. The second race of that pair, but there's not enough win to complete this next race. So I'm sure they're just trying to burn off to the bottom of the hour. Bye, John Spangos. They're just trying to burn off to the bottom of the hour here and then call it a day. I've been called worse than Tim, John Spangos. Thank you. I know that's a typo from you. No worries. Update from the race committee. Racing stop for today. The next day of racing for the Louis Vuitton Cup semifinals will be Wednesday, 18 September. Trey Ritter, thank you. Mark Holland. Zoomers, thanks to all of you that are on the Zoom. So long to you, as I think we will wrap this up and go back to the slides here and say that tomorrow will be our regular show at 1300 Pacific Daylight Time. We now know that we will do a watch party Wednesday morning at 0500 Pacific Daylight Time. And if that wraps things up, then we're done. If not, we'll do one again on Thursday. And it looks like it should be over by Friday, in which case we'll do our regular show again at 1300 PDT, regular Tuesday and Friday shows that we have been doing now for 8 years. John Bosley, thank you for your nice comments. Now, poor Richard Gladwell, who's been up all night, that guy, he's got a much harder job than I, because he now, having watched this all night, it's 03:15, 03:18 in Auckland. He's now got to write an article, get it posted, and then go get some sleep. So he's got a harder job than we do here in these watch parties. That's the program going forward. And then we'll do, assuming we're done here on Tuesday or Wednesday with watch parties, then we'll start up again on Thursday, the 26th of September. Watch party at 0500 PDT for the start of the LVC finals between two of these four teams, whoever goes forward. It's looking like it will be the Brits for sure, and the Italians maybe, I think is a good way to put it based on what we've seen today. And I'm not going to go through who all's won these matches. Let's click through that slide, but I haven't updated that one. The LVC final, regardless, is the 26th of September, and the match is the 12th of October. And we'll update that slide for tomorrow morning, or tomorrow afternoon, rather, Tuesday afternoon show, because we've got wins now on the board by the Swiss and the Americans. That semifinal stands, both semifinals stand at 4 wins, 1 loss. The Brits ahead of the Swiss, and the Italians ahead of the Americans. And we'll be back at it live tomorrow, 1300 PDT, with Julia in the house at her desk for our regular afternoon show. Please like, follow, and share this if you would, please. And we'll leave the comments open, as always, in replay. And thanks again to all of you who support us via Patreon, have become patrons via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, and give us a few bucks a month to help us pay for the equipment and for the fees that keep us on the air. Maura, Gordon, Mark, John Emmett, I don't know if I'll get over to the club tonight, Fog Machine, for Monday Night Football. We shall see. We shall see. In the meantime, the upcoming schedule we've just done, so I'm going to punch through that and wish you all a happy rest of your Monday or Tuesday down under, and we'll see you tomorrow afternoon at 1300 for our regular Tuesday show. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.